What up, folks? Mikey G here, Midlife Crisis Podcast. We have an amazing guest tonight. I am so freaking excited to have JR. Welcome, brother. Not only am I excited to have you, I'm going to reiterate this and make you blush a little on camera. You're looking really good, bro. You're looking really, really good. You know?
I appreciate that. Right back at you too. The goatee, the beard. I wish I could grow one. I can't, unfortunately. So kind of jealous. Not gonna lie.
Well, dude, I appreciate you being here. Before we do the formal introductions and get into the show, I'll do a little housekeeping quick. Any of the OGs listening right now, you should be super jazzed. Maddie and I are going to be streaming tomorrow night. Super stoked about that. Uh-oh, JR's losing it. We're losing JR already. Can you hear me, brother?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to retweet the space here. My apologies.
Oh, yeah, no. Go ahead, do that. You're screened. I just thought I lost you good. Go ahead, retweet, do all those good things.
Beautiful.
But I'll keep on going on the updates. So Maddie is back tomorrow. We are going to stream Diablo 4. Where this all started from. The OGs know that Mikey G and Maddie Mintz actually started on Twitch streaming Diablo 3 and Elder Scrolls Online. That's how this whole craziness started. And then about a year after 30 followers, we realized probably weren't going to make it as pro or gaming streamers at all. And then I found NFTs, and now we're here. And randomly enough, the first project that I ever bought an NFT, a little project called Ethereals. JR might know a thing or two about Ethereals as well before the hold. And by the way, I call it Oni. How the hell do you even pronounce it? Is it on one or Oni?
It is Oni. So there's been I feel like still to this day I hear on one force, and which was understandable though, like
Right,
it kind of it looks like that, but we always had like a running joke. It's like, oh, my knee force 100%.
I don't know how I've just always pronounced it Oni, and I'm like, I'm totally botching that shit. But hey, man, I nailed it somehow. But yeah, I think had like started with Ethereals and then kind of transitioned, but we'll talk all about that. But it was the first NFT I ever bought. And then the kind of rest was history and the Web3 growth. And we both have some really interesting stories. And it's going to be an incredible conversation. But before we get, go ahead.
Honestly, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, man. It's going to be great. So before we get started, though, what we like to do here at Midlife Crisis, we are a professional podcast. I promise you this. I will screw it up, but we've been doing this for years, and we like to treat the guests with honor, and we don't just like to get up on stage and just start spitting random stuff. So formal introduction for the beautiful man, JR. He actually was a middle school art teacher in a low-income, high-needs district in Denver. By the way, been to Denver, loved it. It's amazing. It's basically San Diego at the mountains. If there was another place that I would live, it would be close around Denver because I do love the mountains too. In addition, do coach soccer, football, won some championships as well. So the dude knows a thing or two about sports and art, serial entrepreneur, been a starving artist in Philly for multiple years, and started his own paint and sip company. Dude's been all over the place, and it's amazing to have him here. Did I miss anything, JR? Did I do you justice?
I think that was literally spot on. Again, doing your research, I appreciate you, and yeah, 100%. That's kind of who I am in a nutshell before Web3.
Awesome, love it. So, with that being said, the world famous midlife crisis question, JR, how'd you get the seat you're sitting in today? We like to describe it as, by the way, we used to say Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3, but everybody got so butthurt that like technically it's not 1, 2, and 3 because the first 3 were not the first. So I got sick of explaining that. And I just say episode 1, 2, and 3 now. So episode 1, to reiterate, is your childhood influences. Why did your mind start molding the way it is? 2, professional career. We just touched on some of those. skill sets game, mentorship, leadership, failure, success principles, and then 3, Web3 journey and beyond. Cannot wait to hear it. Let's start with episode 1. Take it away, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm excited for this. I just want to say again, Mikey, I appreciate you having me on. And so it all started, I think my art career ish started because of a beautiful show called Dragon Ball Z. And when I was
Ah,
younger, yeah, absolutely loved it. And there was just something so I don't know if we can curse on this, but so badass about just a lot of fighting, a lot of the anime was incredible, and I try to replicate those drawings. Like I would draw Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, all of them, and I'd spend all day doodling in class, drawing these characters, and then it kind of led me into other cartoons, animes, and such like that, and my mother was an incredible artist, so I'd ask her to draw these for me, and that was in middle school. And I had the most incredible middle school art teacher, Mr. Swenson. Again, this is like 20, 25 years ago. Still remember him. And he would let me get away, not get away with, but let me work on pretty much anything I wanted to. And I remember we had to create board games. That was one of the projects we had, and I was creating a Champions League soccer Monopoly board, and we went like I think about a month past the date we were supposed to finish, but he kept letting us work on it, and we were the only project that he like laminated the board and went the extra mile for us. And
yeah,
once I had him, I was like, that was my first initial thought was like, this is the coolest dude ever. I love art. I want to be an art teacher. And that was like my first ever instance of like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to be
right.
an art teacher. And it was because of his influence. And then that led into high school where I had Miss Trewick, who was the most incredible old lady, sweetest lady ever. And she was my art teacher. And it was the same kind of thing where it's like, hey, you want to spend a few more days, another week or so working in this art. Like they just understood. And if you go to, let's say, any other class, history class, any other class, I'm like, hey, I need another extra week on this. Most
Right.
likely they'd be like, no, like
Yeah.
absolutely not. And
Yep.
so to have that support system just right out the gate in school with art
Yep.
was definitely a blessing, and um, also extremely lucky to have super super supportive parents.
Yes.
So my parents, Scott and Joy, they still together today, and they, no matter what I want to do, it's let's get it. As long as you do it, my dad always said, I'll support whatever you do, but whatever you do, do it right. Don't
Mm,
half-ass anything. Make sure if you're gonna do it, you're the best at it. And my dad was kind of a John Wayne kind of character, very kind of hard. And at the time, I was like, I'm not a huge fan of this because you're a young kid, and
yep.
uh, it can be tough. But it really shaped me into the leader I am today.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I took a lot of what my family gave me, a lot of what I learned in school, and kind of meshed it together. And especially soccer too. Soccer was a major influence on my life.
Hmm.
Played club ball, played in college, and I was captain of almost every single team I was on. And I think combining art, like the creativity of art, the leadership of being on a team and leading a team for soccer sports, all kind of, and my parents' support all pushed me together to eventually become an art teacher. And I will say this to kind of backtrack what you said, like, how do you get to where you are today in the seat you are today? And I
Right.
think the number one thing I could say is persistence. It's not giving up. And I could even say that with the project. We'll get into it later on, but with the districts, there's a lot of persistence in there. But
Yeah.
to become a teacher, I was first living in New York. I went to Hofstra University and just finished my degree, got my bachelor's in art education,
Hold on. Hold on.
and
I'm gonna be rude,
yeah, please,
but you're
please.
cutting forward a little bit.
Sorry, sorry,
And
sorry,
I
sorry.
so and listen, this is your first time. It's totally
Yeah,
cool. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you just gave me enough information to talk for the next 4 hours, believe it or not.
let's let's go.
So I can't let these couple things that you said that are just already really fascinating to me.
Mhm.
One being, um, you can't curse on the show. If you do, I'm gonna fuck you up. Okay?
Yeah.
Just kidding. You can say as much as you want.
Let's go.
We are a rated R, whatever you want to say. The only thing I ask is like, let's not go too far down the
Yeah.
politic religion thing because it's just
Mhm.
it can never end well.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
but by the way, I had
Minimality.
minimality. I always screw
Mhm.
that up. Dude, we went through the whole addiction, bro. Like he
Mhm.
poured his guts out live online. It was unbelievable. A fantastic conversation. So nothing's really off guards.
He's a
But
legend.
two, he's an amazing human. He's awesome. But two, the first thing that you said that struck me right away is we actually talk about this a lot, but you're a perfect person because you are a teacher and you had these teachers that impact you in a creative essence, right? I think the more that we evolve the whole STEM and like listen, I get it. We need engineers, we need scientists, we need mathematicians. But I think we're doing our youth of America a disservice when it comes to creativity. What are your general thoughts there?
Agreed. And I'm glad you brought that up. So, as an art teacher, one of the things I say is like, how important, like one of the main questions asked, how important is art? Where is art? And people only think, when they think of art, they only think of a painting hanging on a wall.
Right.
Every single thing in, if you look around in your room, every single thing in this world that is man-made was touched by an artist in
Yep.
some regard, some sort. You look at a chair, the design of the chair. You look at the TV, you look at buildings, the architecture of it. Something as small as a Coke can, every single thing in this world that is man-made, touched by an artist of some sort, whether they knew they were an artist or not, creating the design of it, the application for it, touched by an artist. And I think there has to be a lot more focus put on the importance of art in the world, especially a lot of schools with programs that go out. One of the very first things that go is music and art. And I think
Absolutely.
that is a huge disservice, not only for those trying to get creativity out, because people can say, oh, you can just let your creativity out outside of school, but there's no guidance outside of school. And then
Mhm.
there's, at least in school, it's a time for them to mentally let go for a minute, and we
Right.
need to like allow a break. And I have so, we'll get into it, but I have so many teacher stories, teacher moments where like my students were like, hey, I need a break. And like I'm like, okay, like let's figure out how we can work this. Still gotta work, but like I'm
Right.
gonna work with you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I think there's a huge importance of, we need to keep pushing creativity at the forefront of everything. And again, it's
Yeah.
no matter what that creativity looks like, it could be
Yeah.
in 100 different forms, but definitely needs to be more importance put on it.
Dude, I love that mindset. I haven't heard somebody say it. I say it in a different way, but I love how you put it that art touches everything. And so I
Mm.
went to, I don't know if I told you, actually went to design school at Penn State.
Mm,
And they had a
that's dope.
top tier graphic design program. And not until then did I realize what design was. And it always explained that um and people I see it in Web3 all the time, right? They interpret design for making things look pretty, which
Mm,
is not design, right? Design, if you really boil it down in its essence, is just effective visual communication. You're
mhm.
communicating in a visual way. It can look ugly as shit, but if it gets the end user to do the action that you're doing, want them to do, that is actually good design, right? And people understanding that. But the fact that the way that you said too was that design and art through everything touches you. And the way the when the so I love that. But the other thing, and I would love your thoughts on this, is where I go and get frustrated too, is when you're a kid, you're not told quite yet or really understand that um, you should go to college and you need to get a desk job and you need to make X amount of money. The risk taking, the imagination, like it's such a critical point. And to be able to people to, you always hear, and I read this all the time, and my mother in law actually 20 plus year school teacher. She actually ended up getting her PhD in education leadership. So she's been teaching and really into it her whole life. And she said something that I've read it a couple of times here, and this is a prime example of how we could do better. Creative people, when they read, they can visualize the book, right? The less creative people kind of just take it very literally. But something that small, if you could just tell a kid, hey, when you read, imagine, I don't know, Hunger Games, the cornucopia, right?
Mhm.
Actually, one of my more frustrating moments in life is when I went to see the Hunger Games in the theater. When I read the Hunger Games and thought of the cornucopia, which is the middle mountain thing, like it was like Mount Everest to me, right? Like
Mhm.
there's kids climbing up. This is a crazy looking thing. And then they show this freaking tin shack in the movie. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I am so pissed that that's the cornucopia. But the point I'm trying to make is that is such a critical time. And we should be able to push and we should be, it should be the top thing that we do is
Mhm.
push kids to be creative. What are your thoughts there?
Again, I completely agree. I think it's even if students, I had so many students that coming into art, their very first thought is, I can't draw. I don't want to be here. I can't draw. I can't do this. And I'm like, all right. So there's a few artists that I always point them to. And I'm like, one, you can. I'm like, everyone right now, draw a line. Can you do that? Bam. And I'm like, you see that? You drew a line. You're an artist. And let me tell you why. And then I'd show them works from like an artist. Her name is Chantel Martin, incredibly world-renowned artist, living now, female, just based out of the UK. And she's distinctively known for drawing just beautiful lines, stick figures, and makes a absolute killing doing it. I also refer them to like Keith Haring, who is doing these subway drawings, little just again stick figure esque drawings. And I'm like, you see, and I'd always ask them like we'd have like I did a which is more expensive. So then I put like a work of art and then like let's say a Lamborghini, and I have the whole
Right.
class. We'd all stand up and I'm like, all right, walk to which side you think is more expensive. And like people will look at the stick figure drawing and they're like, no way, this is like, I'm like, no, that right there is worth about $500,000. And they're like, how is that possible? They're like, I could do that, mister. And I'm like, you can do that. And that's the point. And so I think
Yeah.
convincing students that, or just anyone in general, like you are an
Mhm.
artist. It's again, it depends what kind of art form you're looking at, but in some regard, everyone is an artist. Even with
Yeah.
again, writing is an important art. Something I practiced for a little bit too. Did had a little stint with poetry. Was terrible at it,
Right.
but
Right.
I enjoyed it. And as long as I think we can keep pushing people to use art as an outlet, I think it's one of the most important things, especially for mental health, that isn't put enough,
Oh,
not enough precedence put on top of it for sure.
absolutely. We'll talk about that later too. I mean, what we're doing right now is art, right? This is
Yeah.
visual, this is communication, speech that, not until I had done this for a couple years. It was this just happened last week. I gave a presentation. They're like, dude, how did you like get so good at speaking? And I was like, I got the number one tip for you. Start a podcast and then get back to me in 4 years. Because you just
Mhm.
don't realize what you're doing. But this is the last thing I want to follow up with. And then I want to get to your parents because you also said a couple interesting things there too. Would you agree with me that um, creativity is a skill that can be learned? You were just kind of talking about it that like, hey, you can draw a line, but we also, I think, put youth of America or anybody, it doesn't matter what age you put yourself in a box that I can never be creative. But to me, creativity and that using that side of the brain is just like anything else. Put 10,000 hours and you can be pretty damn good at it. What are your thoughts there?
Again, spot on. I think it comes down to persistence and just living and breathing it. To be honest, I think one thing is I'm not gonna say our generation. I think a lot of people kind of get lazy, and if they start something, they're like get to a certain plateau, and they're like right before they hit that breakthrough, they're like, ah, this is too much. I'm tired. I'm gonna back off from doing this. But I think, yeah, like you said, with anything, 10,000 hours or more, or even less, whatever it may look like, uh, creativity is it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better it's going to be. And I think as long as you keep doing it day in, day in, day out, practice, practice, practice,
Right.
you'll get better at it. And I think it's so I understand, like, from a technical ability, some people just might not have that eye.
Right.
However, I think getting outside influence is extremely important. I think submerging yourself in, like, museums, in again, I like to call it YouTube University. Checking out
Yes.
podcasts, like just doing research, even
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter. There are so many outlets of creativity that I think as long as you constantly get different, like, sources of creativity and just inspiration, I think that will take you miles and miles ahead. Because again, they say there is no such thing as a new work of art, because every work of art has some sort of influence from somewhere. And to be fair though, I do think we're starting to see different forms of art, especially more recently. But I think
Yeah.
yeah, just keep an open mind, I think. And again, like you said, persistence is key, and it's everything.
So this is another conversation. What I love about we do on the show, and OGs are just sick of me hearing it. I always say this. It's selfish in a way for me because I get to talk to amazing people like yourself, and every time I do this, I'm actually going to school, right? I'm learning a new education. I'm learning a new way. Even though I always say persistence, discipline, right?
Yeah.
Taking risks. All of these themes are consistent with entrepreneurs and quote unquote successful people in the business world. That listen, it's like we talk about losing weight too, right? Like there's really no secret, and just
Hmm.
limit your calories and hit the gym every now and then. You don't even have to work out that hard, right? But we always want to hack. Web3 is a perfect example. Everyone thinks they're going to be a millionaire overnight. That's just not how it works, right?
Hmm.
And what I'm getting at though is these principles are the same, but what's cool is every podcast is drastically different because everybody has a different story. And there's going to be an art teacher that hears your story and is like, I should finally take that leap of faith. I should take that risk. And you never know, this conversation could impact hundreds, if not thousands of lives. That's why I really love what I do. And it's just already fascinating. So back to the persistence question now. We talk a lot about it's hard to be disciplined. Persistence is a really,
Yes.
really difficult thing, right? So I have found for me, and I'd love to hear your perspective. For me to stay persistent, I have found this podcast, which lines up what I think my superpower is connecting with people, deeply listening, just genuinely caring about people, and being able to share that with the world. And because of that love and that passion, there's been many times where 5 minutes before the podcast, I'm like, fuck this. I do not want to do this right now. But I know that at the end, I'm going to be thankful. And there's not one time that I've never been thankful that I've done it. That's what gets me through. Do you believe in that similar thought process, or is there something else that really helps you out with persistency?
Oh no, absolutely. There's if anyone says that they wake up and every single morning and they're like, "Hey, let's do it. Let's go," they're lying to you. I
Yeah,
think there are a lot, like, there are a lot of hacks that you can do to kind of make yourself, I think, do I mean, you have to be persistent in doing these hacks too. Like, one thing, so what changed my life was I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and that book
yep,
forever changed my life. And one of the kind of like mantras I have is write down a goal that you want to complete, but write it down every morning, 3 times, but then say it to yourself in your mind 3 times. But then the most important part is speak it into an existence as well. So then say it
right,
3 times as well. So then every morning, and on God, I did this every morning and every night. I would do it, and it's such a small little thing, but it makes the world a difference throughout your day. And I
mhm,
just listened to a podcast recently as well on YouTube where there, because I was getting kind of like, I have to, same as you, I'm like, I'm getting just I was getting tired, like mentally tired.
right,
And this person would, in the morning, like, I don't remember what his number was. It's pretty high, like 50 or 100 times a day.
right,
Nike said, just do it, just do it. He woke up, the first thing he said, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it. And he just kept saying to himself. So later on, the small tasks, like if it takes, another thing I heard too is I'm all over the place, but if it takes less than
No.
5 minutes to do it,
Yeah.
immediately do it. Just
Yeah.
immediately do it. Take the trash out, just immediately do it. Less than five
Yep.
minutes. Have to do this, less than 5 minutes, do it. And that'll just clear your mind. It's like you're clicking the box, check, got it out of the way, done. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're
Mm-hmm.
more likely to do other tasks a lot quicker. And that's
Yeah.
why they say all my books, but that's why they say like making your bed in the morning is extremely important because
Yeah.
you complete the first task of the day, and then you are far more likely to create or to finish other tasks because you already finished one. So you feel accomplished. All right, what's the next task? So I think there is no like golden secret. No one can make you do anything but yourself.
Right.
I think it's looking in and looking in the mirror every day and saying, again, this is David Goggins says it. He's like, do you want to wake up every morning and think, am I going to be a bitch today? Or am I going to get, or, and I love that though. Cause then I'm not even kidding. Like a few times I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like tired. I'm like, said to myself in the mirror, I'm like, are you going to be a bitch today? Or are you going to like go out and get work done? But it's so funny, but it works. And I'm like, yo, I love this. And, cause again, I'm a very passionate person and I'm a
Right.
very, I love pressure. I thrive on pressure, and I love when responsibility is on my shoulders, and especially
Yeah.
responsibility of others. So I like to put that pressure on me because I feel like I can rise to the occasion, and other people are different, and that's completely fine. But as long as you just find what works specifically for you,
Right.
I think you ride that because again, there is no, like you said, there's no everyone has a different path to success.
Yeah.
It's completely different, and there is no overnight success. It's persistence to get where you are. And last little thing I'll say on all that is like kind of like persistence and getting to where you want. It's like that little fable with Picasso when he's at lunch and the waitress comes over and is like, "Oh my God, Picasso, I love your work. Can I have a piece?" And all he did was a quick little like a 2 minute doodle on his on a napkin. It's literally just a line drawing, really quick. And he goes, "Here, $20,000." And she's like, "It's just a line drawing." And he's like, "It took you 2 minutes to do it." And he's like, "Yeah, it took me 2 minutes to do it, but it took me a lifetime to learn to get to this point."
Yeah.
And I'm like, hearing that, I was like, yeah. So a lot of people don't see all the work before that got you to where you are to this very point of success. It's like the iceberg.
Yeah.
You got
I love
the peak.
I love it, man. And I talk about that a lot all the time. Like, um, I could have a lot more followers. I could have a lot more money in the bank account, but I refuse to um sacrifice my morals, my brand on what I want to build for the long term, right? I'm not thinking short term. And I've been podcasting and doing public speaking for 8 years now, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like haven't even started yet. Like that, it's so true. And a lot of things that you said, um, really, what it boils down to is those habits are building persistency, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing, kind of back to what I was saying, is yet again things that frustrate me because, like David Goggins, I read his book, amazing, super aggressive human being. Not for
Yeah.
everybody, right? Like, not
Mhm.
everybody is gonna soak that in and take it for what it's worth. Where I get frustrated, though, is when people say, "You must have a morning routine, and if you don't, you're gonna be a failure," right? Like, I love that you shared those tidbits, but then also followed it up by, "It's not for everybody." And that's, again, why I love doing this is because whatever tidbits we throw out throughout these conversations, it might work with somebody and it might finally click and resonate. And there's no one size fits all, especially with this stuff, right? You have to figure out uh, what works for you. And one of the issues is I'll never forget this TED talk about a guy did um, a research and he was trying to decipher why anxiety was like exponentially increasing in our society. And one of the things that he found was just this simple idea of choice, right? And he used a really interesting way to visualize it, which was like, hey, next time you go to your grocery store, just look how many different types of ranches there are, right? It's like
Oh
there's
man.
30 different ranches to pick from. And they did,
Mhm.
like, there's science behind this, and, like, the human brain likes around 5 choices. It can go a little bit more, it can go a little bit less, but there's a threshold where if you don't have enough choices, you feel like you're kinda getting screwed and shorted. But if you have
Mhm.
too many choices, the brain literally starts creating anxiety. And this day and age, there is a million things that people are telling you you must do to be successful. So the main message that you just gave that I want to reiterate is you just have to find that works well for you. And if that is sleeping till 2 p.m. and then staying up to 4 a.m. because that's just how you vibe, fucking go for it, right? But I will
That's me, to
also
be honest. I'm
yeah,
not a morning person at all. I will say that. I say make the bed. I don't make the bed, but like it's the concept behind it of like get your first task done. Like I'll make sure I get something done early. But yeah, I'm not a morning person, so I spew that advice because I've read it a million times and there is like scientific proof behind it. But I'm with
right.
you. I'm not a
Yeah.
morning person. I'll be up
Yeah.
till 4 a.m. though.
And so I used to be like that, but now I'm the opposite because I have 10-month-old, and
Mm.
and you change. That's the other thing that people don't say enough. It's like you have to have this habit for the rest of your life or else you won't be successful. And it's like, no, you change throughout life. And if you don't adapt, you're actually gonna fail. Um,
Mm.
Beautiful conversation. We usually get to that later, but I couldn't pass that up because I love persistency is just a beautiful thing to talk about. And like I said, every time, last person I time I talked about persistency, they had a totally different angle. So I loved your
Mm.
angle. The last thing I want to touch on, unless you want to touch on anything else in episode one, is um, you mentioned your parents and how um, having them, your dad in particular, how when you were little, it was kinda annoying and frustrating because 'cause you're a little kid and you're like, "Why are you such a hard ass?" I'm actually really curious, at what moment in your life or, like, what age did you finally start appreciating that? Because it's always interesting to me to hear, like, when you have that aha moment, you're like, "Oh, shit, man, dad was actually right even though he was a dick half the time."
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, by the way. It
Yeah,
was freshman year of college. I think when finally on my own, my first 2 years, I went up to Plattsburgh and seeing like literally again, we're all kids still back then, 18, 19 years old,
yeah,
but some of them not knowing how to do laundry, not like being able to cook for themselves, not being able to do things that a normal functioning adult should be able to do. I was like, "Wait, you've never done any of this before?" It's like, "No, my mom always did my laundry." My mom, to be fair, my mom did my laundry a lot too. Absolutely. But it was, I think, in college when I realized, okay. And then when I started taking, it was more so with leadership too. I noticed I always
Mm,
wanted to take the lead on whatever it may be, and again, put the pressure on my shoulders. And I got that from my
right,
dad of like, always be a leader, always take care of those that stand by your side, that stand behind you, always support them. And again, he was in the Marines as well, so he had
right,
kind of that grit to him. And I will say there was like again some few moments though where it went a little too far. So one point I was in a soccer game and I got elbowed in the face and I had my teeth knocked out and I had a concussion, didn't know what was happening, and somehow in the last 20 minutes of the game, I still played with missing tooth, two missing teeth, still played, but I was so out of it. I remember I came to and woke up on the sidelines to my dad yelling at me, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And he's like, "Stop asking questions. Act like a captain. You're a leader. Act like a leader." And I'm like, "What just happened right now?" And he's like, you're being weird. What's going on?" And I didn't realize till later on I had a severe concussion. I couldn't think. I got elbowed in the face, missing teeth, and I got my dad yelling at me, saying, "Why aren't you acting like a leader right now?" And I'm like, "Because I can't think." Like so, like it. There were some points where it
right,
went a little much, but at the end of the day, to counterbalance that, I had my mom that would kind of swoop in and be like, "Okay," it was like almost like a good cop, bad cop. My mom be
right,
like,
right,
"Okay, it's okay. We got you, honey. Like we're gonna take you. I'll take you to the dentist. We'll figure this out." So I think again, it was a perfect. It really was. They did a really phenomenal job. Perfect balance of tough love, that which I needed and helped
Right.
me build my character, and then the emotional support and love I got from my mother. It was a beautiful harmonious blend of both, and I think again very blessed to have them always support me. And
Yeah.
I will say, like, growing up was not easy. We were very very poor, and
Yeah.
paycheck paycheck, and my parents did everything they could to make sure that. And again, something I didn't really appreciate until later on in life, it was like how much they sacrificed for to bring us to
Right.
soccer 3 days a week, to uh or more than that, actually probably like 5 days a week, and like to do all these things. And we had 5 kids in my family, so they're trying to juggle all of us at once and still cook dinner, still do still take us out for to whenever they could. And just like it really made me appreciate when, like, even when like having a girlfriend, it's like, oh damn, I gotta like go out with them, take care of them, like not taking them, like bring them out like 3 or 4 nights a week. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, my parents were taking care of me, bringing me out all this time, and like they had no other life besides us. And it's like
Yeah.
it really made me appreciate everything they did for me and my family. And again, it wasn't until I think about college when it really hit me, like, wow, they really did go above and beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say I totally um agree with what you said. I mean, my mom was 19 when she had me. Like,
Wow.
bro,
Mm.
I'm 42 and I have a 10-month-old, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the flying hell did she do it not like, how am I a
Oh.
half normal human, right? And, like, mothers, I am convinced, and that people do not talk about this enough. Mothers are the true real world superheroes, man. The stuff that
Absolutely.
they do is insane. Like, I'm a dad too, and I still, like, I look at my wife and going through this process, like, I already admired her before, like, she is literally my idol now. Like, I mean, she's just an incredible human being, and then what they do with their bodies, and just how they have this sixth sense about them when it comes to child care is amazing. So I love so this question, because I actually think about my childhood too. My mom stayed at home, my dad was a mailman, right?
Mm.
We didn't have a ton of money either. Um, but I didn't feel poor, and I felt like I had everything that I needed. Did you feel similar vibes or
Absolutely. And I think it was more so holiday events is what really made it feel like home. And I will say this, like, perfect example is one year for Christmas. All me and my older brother got were a Bible and a compass. And our
Yeah,
family was not that religious.
right.
We'd go to church on Easter
Yeah.
and maybe Christmas. That's it. And
Mhm.
they said, we can't afford anything for you this year, but we hope that this helps you guide you to where you need to go in life. And it's like, we understand, like, we got to take care of your little brothers and sisters, get them gifts. And I'm like, honestly, yes. Like, that was like one of the, I think that was like my 16th actually, I think it's like my 17th birthday, 17th, when I was 17 years old. I'm like, yeah, why am I even getting presents anyways at 17? And
Right.
but it was always like Christmas time, Thanksgiving, holidays is what really made it feel like I wasn't poor at all.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, especially when you hear, again, other people's stories, and they say if you throw everyone's problems in a bag and you pick one out randomly, you'll want your problems back like nine
Yes.
times out of ten. And
100%.
and I think I definitely resonate with that a lot, because
Yeah.
again, I will say this, went through hell as a family, and with a lot of things. Again, me personally, a lot of stomach issues, and it's at the end of the day, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
Yeah.
I think that's again part of what got me here today. And we all stuck together. We all had each other's
Yeah.
backs, and we all, like, if one person in our family needs something, the entire family shows up.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's been incredible support for sure.
Yeah. And I literally actually used to say that, not really knowing. I would be like, "Hey, a lot of times you gotta get to your lowest lows to get to your highest highs." And I never really, like, fully grasp it, and then I went through my, like, major mental health crisis, and I think about that a lot, to think, like, when I was dying, I somehow held a senior level management position at a Silicon Valley startup downtown San Francisco. I blacked out my then job interview because I realized I probably shouldn't be managing teams and budgets considering I can't manage myself. So I like
Mhm.
went to a job interview, couldn't tell you what I said in that job interview, somehow got that job, somehow kept my job throughout this like year and a half of just second to second, right? And I look back and I'm like, fuck man, if I can do that, I literally can do anything I want. And so having having that context uh, goes so far. So you being able to reference that and me being too, um, it's such a huge asset to have. And it sounds cliche when you hear it, but when you actually do go through it, it is again another like, oh, I understand that now, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The last thing I'll say about the family situation is, and I felt it, man, because I feel the same thing at the holidays, and I'm firmly convinced, uh, it's just love, man. Like, if you just I always knew my parents were not perfect, like no parents are, but there is one thing that was absolutely I knew with 100% of my heart, they loved me to death,
Yeah.
and they would do anything for me. And that security is so critical when you're young, right? And it can help you get through a lot of things. And I'm assuming you felt the same way too, the way you're talking about it. And I just think it's such a critical thing in your childhood.
I agreed. Again, spot on. I think you put it perfectly. I don't even need to add on to that. Like, I think that security, that blanket of at the end of the day, if anything happens, if I they were my mom dad still say now, like if you ever need to come home, always have a couch for you.
Right.
We turned your room into the dad's man cave now though, but you still got the couch. And I'm like always having that's been beautiful, and again very blessed to have that. And I know a lot of people in this world don't have that, so it's again just blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh I literally had a conversation with my sister today. She is my my parents got divorced when we were really little. I was like 9, and that's a pretty traumatic thing when you're that young. And so my sister and I were really, really close, had been close forever. I manifested mine in the bad way, which was like burying everything deep down inside, consuming shit tons of alcohol in college, and just like kind of putting that all off till, later on in life. My sister manifested it and just working her ass off, and she's got her PhD in nursing. She's insanely accomplished. Um, and she was debating whether to apply for this new job, which would have had her move across the country and she would have got paid $1 bajillion. And what we're talking about with the family and the love now, I just I was just very blunt with her. I said, "Listen," I said, "at the end of the day, when you lay down to rest, that last sleep, right? I promise you this, and you know this, you just don't wanna admit it. You are not gonna look back and be like, "You know what? I wish I woulda take that job to make, 200 grand more a year and not spend time with your family." I'm telling you that person would have said, "What the hell were you thinking?" Right? But it's so hard to do in the time, right? Like, same thing for me when I went through my health stuff. I have my master's, I have, like, a 20-year professional career in design. Like, I should be pretty senior level in management, but I still have like a sole contributor job. And I struggle with that every now and then to think like, man, like I should be getting paid more. My title should be more. But then I take a step back and I'm like, I work 100% from remote from home. I get to watch my son grow up every day. And then I get to spend all of the rest of my time building this podcast company, doing what I love to do. And that is what the people are looking for. And I feel like what are your thoughts on that too? Like I'm assuming that resonates with you as well.
That's the dream. It's there are people out there that think money is everything, and I will
Yeah.
say this: you hear it from a lot of successful and rich people as well, though. That like, and I firmly stand behind this. Money 1,000% does not buy happiness
Yeah.
at all. I can tell you that firsthand. What it does buy though is time.
Yeah.
It gives you time to do what you want more. So it's like
Yes.
a balance of. All right, so I think finding the middle ground of both, because again, you can be happy. You're living example of it. Be happy, be successful, and you can have your cake and eat it too. Is what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
I think you could live the perfect life of. Um, Actually, this is a perfect example. Have you ever seen the movie Family Guy or Family
Yes.
Man with Nicolas Cage?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's a perfect example for those who haven't. Very quick synopsis. He lives two different lives and he sees two different lives. One life where he's extremely rich businessman, has everything he wants as far as finances, but has no family, no one to basically go home to at night that he truly cares about. And the other life, he has a he's not successful, works at a tire business, and but has a beautiful family, and he is so much happier in that other life where, again, financial, he's not really there, but his mind, body, and soul is full. And I think that at the end of the day will every 100 times out of 100 win over finances. And I think we
Yeah.
got to take care of ourselves here before we think about here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the listen, COVID was horrific for a lot of the world, right? A lot of people die. But I would say for the working, corporate desk job person, there was a huge silver lining in the sense that I think it reset the mentality of how important this flexibility and freedom is. And the side hustle kind of like reignited. And what I'm getting at is there are, especially with technology, right? Because you can get a pretty cheap cell phone right now. You can get a access to the internet, and yeah, even if you have to work a couple jobs to just get yourself food on the table, because let's be honest, there's also the flip side that no money can guarantee misery as well, right?
Absolutely.
You have to have at least some. You need the basic
Bare
things,
essentials.
roof over your head, food. I'm not arguing any of that, but I'm saying once you do get that, uh, there are so many tools nowadays that can help you do whatever you want. And but like you just said, I promise you this, if the only thing that you're chasing above and beyond that is money, it's gonna end not well.
Hmm.
Um, Beautiful conversation. I mean, dude, we just like we went through, we did one, we went to some two. We have probably gonna have to do this a couple times. We're gonna do some more videos. I because I do the Web3 story is fascinating too, and I don't want to miss that. So what I want to do is I will not ask you anything else about the childhood because we already covered a lot and that was great. I want to move into kind of college, and then you started talking about the teaching, and through this, before we get into Web3, what I'm really interested in as you kind of give us the story is failures, um, successes, and really more kind of those skill sets that you think you gained to prep you for your Web3 journey. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right.
I think failure is the key to success.
Yeah.
I'd say that 100 times over. I've failed so many times, but the key is to fail forward. Is to make sure that you learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures, and keep pushing forward. And some of those would include, again, we talk about college and uh, struggle as well. I had This
Mhm.
is a moment that we all have these moments that kind of change our lives, and is a mental switch. I've had twice in my life now. I've had two moments that have created a mental switch in my brain that I'll never go back from. And the second one we'll talk later on about. It happened after the Web3 space, but the first switch was I was in college. Again, I told you my family, we struggling financially, and
Yeah.
I was a senior in college in painting class, and oh, not senior, sorry, I wasn't senior, I was a sophomore, I think. And in painting class, couldn't afford, we had to create our own canvas, and I couldn't afford staples or supplies to to interact with the art class. So my very first class I go in, and my teacher, it's funny, I learned the most from him, Rick Mickelson, as far as like design painting, but he was also the biggest asshole in the entire world, and I'll stand by that. And because there's a lot of reasons why, and not just because of me, but he called me out in front of the whole class and is like, because he knew I was on the soccer team, and he's like, "What happens if you show up to soccer practice with no supplies, no cleats, no soccer ball, no shin guards?" And I'm like, "I'd probably sit on the bench." And he's like, "Well, that's what you're gonna do." And so painting classes, for those that don't know, usually classes are like 45 minutes to 50 minutes in college. Art classes is about 2.5 hours for painting classes. So extremely long classes. So what he had me do was just sit there for the 2.5 hours just to get my credit. And okay, that's fine, right? And I'm like, I understand that. I couldn't afford paints. I had no money for supplies. Uh, couldn't do it. And then finally got enough for canvas, but couldn't afford paint and couldn't afford staples to staple my canvas. So what I
Wow.
did was I went in at, and again, this is the moment that mental switch happened. I went in at like, I think it was like 12, 1 o'clock at night, because all painters had access to the studio because we were working with oil paints. So
Yeah.
oil paints can go in over and over again, repaint it. So anyone had access that in that class to that one room. And I remember on my hands and knees picking up staples that were left over from other students that like it just kind of fell off, bawling, crying. And I was like,
Wow.
I will never be in this art studio. I will never be in this situation ever again in my entire life where I have to pick up staples because I can't afford staples. And I'm like, I will never be here again. And later on, too, I had to share a studio, painting studio with another classmate. I couldn't afford paints. And then oil paint is expensive. And 2, 3 days later, I get a, hey, have you been using my oil paints? And I had to be like, yeah, I am so sorry. I can't afford paints. And thankfully, she was like extremely
Right.
understandable and was like really, really cool about it. But I'm like, I can't fail this class. I need to. I just can't afford paint. Can you help me out? Can you spare me? And then every kind of got around the class a little bit, so they kind of helped me to get together. But that was one of the mental shifts where I'm like, I will never, like in my head I'm like, I will never be this quote unquote poor again in my life, to the point where
Yeah.
like I have to pick up staples. And
Yes.
but I needed that moment because it,
Hmm.
it eventually, I was broken. I was at the lowest of low, but it made me stronger. But like, all right, that started side hustles. So I'm like, I need to start making money
Yeah.
to support myself and be able to, again, staples, a few bucks, 2, 3 bucks. But like I was literally like it was bad. But so to bring that to like next level again, art. How can I make money with art? And so that was where my first side hustle began in college. Was I was literally doing portraits for people. So I'd be like, hey, send me a portrait of your girlfriend, your boyfriend, of your dog, of your pet. And I was doing $20 portraits, which would take like, again, 3, 4 hours to do. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I just needed some sort of money.
Right.
And
Right.
that kind of got kicked me off in college. And like right after college, going into, before teaching, I was a starving artist in Philly, and
Yeah.
that kind of goes into persistence too. So I applied to a bunch of jobs for teaching, and for I think it was 3 years or 4 years after college, I didn't get a teaching job. And
Yeah.
it's again crazy how it comes full circle. But I started a starving artist in Philly. I was living with my older brother at the time. He was very cool with a lenient rent, but it was still cutting it close. And it's funny. We had a conversation earlier, um, where we actually have different viewpoints. So the conversation we had on our first intro call was, um, there can't be a plan B, or there can be a plan A, plan B to be
Right.
successful. For me, the way, like, again, all paths are different. I'm very much a believer in, if you want to do something like go really, really above and beyond, there can't be a plan B. And for me,
Yeah.
again, I know we have different viewpoints, and it works for different people. I'm very much if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what I did was, for teaching at the time, I was a server, and I think I saved up like $5,000. I quit my serving job, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a successful artist, no matter what it takes. I'm quitting my job. And you realize once you hit this point of, oh my God, now I have 7, 8, 9 extra hours in my day to fully devote just to this craft. It was like a, oh my God, now like this is insane. Now I have like, now I can create all day every day.
Yeah.
And I was, again, I was trying to figure out how to be successful. I wrote a book, and a book, you buy it on Amazon. It's all about how to make a living as an artist
What's it
through
called?
Etsy. Well, I'll share that with you. I'm not. This was three years ago, but
We're not gonna share this with Web3 quite yet.
if we can, but it was all the tips and tricks I learned on how I made a living for 2 years,
That's awesome.
selling art off of Etsy.
And
And
this was in Philly?
yes, yeah. This is in
Yeah.
Philly, and it it was just again a beautiful experience because like I was so poor, but I was so fulfilled. I was so
Yes.
happy that
Yes.
every morning I woke up, the only thing I had to work on was art. And I'm like, I feel like once my back's put up against the wall, it's like I will make this work no matter what. And again, like I was showing my art in barbershops, I was showing my art in restaurants, in
Yeah.
cafes, and just anywhere I could put my art out to get feelers. And um again, if your back's up against the wall, we as humans, we will always find a way to survive
Yes.
and to make it. And I somehow did. And after 2 years, I jumped on with it was called, I think the company was called, uh it was Paint and Sip, I think it was called. And
Mhm.
I joined this company where you teach people how to paint while everyone drank, and it
Yeah.
was for like two
They
hours
still
and
exist, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm only getting paid like $100 a show, but they're bringing in around $2,000 to $3,000 a show.
Yeah.
But I'm just the artist. I'm like, why not? I could easily do this myself, and I did it. So I started a company with my best friend Mike, who's not art. He has no artistic abilities at all, but he's great with business and just overall like know-how and persistence. And the two of us started a company called Paint on the Rocks. And I went from making $100 a show to we were bringing in about 3 grand a show, and we were doing uh, about 3 a week. And you can imagine how much like that changed my life too, of like
Yeah.
going from making nothing at all to bringing in a lot life changing money. And
Yeah.
we did some again for marketing for that. We uh, did I didn't know it's illegal to do this, but we printed out like 1,000 pamphlets, and we really late at night just went to every mailbox saying, hey, you get like a 10% discount. We put these pamphlets in, like sign up. And yeah, we were doing it at like TGI Fridays, at Applebee's, at all these places. We were like doing our Paint on the Rocks, and it blew up. But that was uh before COVID, so it was okay. But the only problem with that was we were stationary to like 3 or 4 restaurants in the area, and we didn't expand out of that. So we can only hit that certain market so much before they're
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do another paint sip class. Like I
Yeah.
did it already. And so we kind of outran our uh, uh, clientele. So we're like, all right, what's next? And that's when I kind of got led into teaching.
Okay. So I there's tons of amazing things there too. I think I'm gonna not ask a bajillion questions and go into teaching. I will. Hmm. What do I want to say? From that time, so
Mm,
the back up against the wall thing, right? I actually feel this now, right? Because I work. Um, I've made life decisions to have a really nice, comfortable life.
mhm,
And I struggle a lot thinking, oh, um, what if I quit everything and would my podcast company grow quicker? I'm sure it absolutely would. But what I always come back to is, do I have what I want in life currently? And the answer is always yes.
mm.
My question to you is, you're fully convinced on the burn the bridges that's going to get the top work ethic out of you. I think I will tend to agree with that. From the starving artist situation, what's the other number one thing that you think about of like this, man, I'm glad I did this because I learned X? What would that be to you?
Uh, yeah. So I will say this too. The whole burn the bridges, it's again different for everyone because for you, you have a whole family to support. To
Yeah.
to
Yeah. For sure.
you are yeah, it's completely different. So
Yeah.
it leans into like my brother too, where My brother, I try to get him to NFTs. He's like, listen, man, I have a kid, I have a wife. If that fails, my whole family goes homeless. And it's like there were so many different like, so
Yeah.
I completely understand it's
Yeah.
different facet, but I think the number one thing I learned from that, which took me into NFTs, was I can do it. I can survive. I can make a
Mm,
living for at least a few years. It might not look pretty, but I know that if I wanted to, again, I could uh, rewrite it, make it better, learn from my mistakes. But I know that if I wanted to at any point in my life, for at least a solid year, I will be successful. I will be able to make it. And I think um, that's what made me quit teaching too and take NFTs on full time. Again,
yeah.
my dream job that I always wanted in my entire life. I said I'm gonna pursue what I always want to do was only worry about art
Yeah.
and again we can get to teaching too, but like that was a that's teaching saved me. I will say that
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
So, believe it or not, we already been talking for an hour,
Wow,
but we have we have some time, which is
that's
good.
great.
I have time too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't want to miss the teaching because I feel like we've talked about it a lot and it's a big part of your life. Let's go there. And again, as you take me through your kind of teaching journey, I'm really interested because you already said a couple beautiful things about how you taught the kids that a line is art, right? Uh, I'm interested, one, just the journey, but as a teacher, what were the things that were important to you that you thought made you a good teacher or helped you teach more effectively? I'm kind of interested in that angle.
That's beautiful. I think, oh, I'll say some students or some teachers at least they'll know their students, they'll know them by name, but they won't know their deeper story, their who they are as a human. And I think there are so many great little things I was taught from. So I will say this too. So I taught at Strive Prep Sunnyside, and my support system there as well was incredible. So
Right.
before I moved to Denver too, again, I applied to literally, I think, 10 different teaching jobs, never got them. Moved to Denver, and I had not one, not two, but three teaching offers immediately the first 2 weeks I was there in Denver. And again, I moved to Denver. Funny story too. My best friends were out there, and they're like, "Hey, we need a roommate." Never been to Denver, had no idea what I was going to do out there. I was like, "Oh, I'll probably just pick up a serving job, bartending job. I'll apply to teaching jobs. We'll see what happens." But I went out there. 2 weeks later, I had three offers for teaching jobs, and I think one thing I did at least with teaching that made my art class different than all the other I think teachers for the most part is I took almost all my projects were focused on living artists that students could relate to. That students are like, hey, I can see this because if you say, hey, Picasso back then, Frida Kahlo back then, they made a living in the arts. Students like, yeah, they're dead. They have their paintings on a wall, but like, there's so many other ways to uh, to make money through art and a living through art. And
Right.
so I would have a lot of the projects I do I would reach out to these artists, these big artists, big time artists. Again, Chantel Martin, worldwide. I reached out to her and I was like, hey, we're doing a project on your art. Would love if you could say a few words to the kids.
Uh,
And she came on, it was incredible. She came on, again, middle school art, middle school students, think 11, 12, 13 years old, reaching out to someone who, again, on Instagram, like hundreds of thousands of followers,
right.
whatever it may be, and like this famous artist. And she's like, "Oh my God, yes!" Sent in a video to my students, and then replied to a bunch of them in DMs. And then my students all
Uh,
came in, and were like, "Mister, like she wrote me. Oh my God!" And like, then they started like doodling a bunch as well. And like, uh, I always gave them inspiration to like go above and beyond. And perfect, really funny example actually was I don't know if you remember at Art Basel when um, the artist duct taped a banana to the wall, and that was the work of art, and said, and it sold for like over $50,000. Literally just a duct tape banana to the wall. And
yeah.
so I told my students that I was like, take a look at this. This right here just sold for how much? How much do you guys think? And they just like, oh, I would never buy that. $10, $5, $2 for the banana maybe. And I'm like, that sold for like $50,000. And they're like, what? I'm like, yes. art is anything you think conceptually. It's not just a drawing or a painting. That day, like I think it was like 2 periods later, my math teacher uh, sent me a text message of the students duct taping a stapler to the wall, and said, "Mr. Foley, what do you have my students doing?" I was dying laughing. She's like, "They're saying that this duct tape stapler to the wall is art," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That is incredible." I'm like, "I
Yes.
love that," and so those little moments too, and then I'd always push the boundaries. So in the district, we were the first ever districts, middle school, high school, and such, in our school in the district to be able to use spray paint. And I
Right.
was pushing that because I loved students. Again, they love spray paint. They think it's cool. They like graffiti on the walls because again, a lot of that is in their culture
Yeah.
out in Sunnyside. And we had more than a handful of students in our school were 13 years old, 12 years old, registered in gangs, tattoos at 13. Like
Wow.
it was intense. And
Yeah.
so like graffiti culture was big out there. So I'm like, all right, kind of want to use that to relate to them. And so we talked about like a lot of incredible graffiti artists in the Denver local area. Talked about Banksy, and we were gonna do this. We had them create stencils. And funny story too is they say the most troubled students, you want to give them the most responsibility, or like not
Yeah.
troubled students that create the most problems. Because if you give them the most responsibility, they usually rise to the occasion. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
got the most responsibility. I'm gonna do good, and that's usually the case. And we had our soccer star, football star, and uh, his name was Angel. Anything but an angel. If you're listening to this, Angel, you know I love you, but would always create absolute chaos in the
Yeah.
classroom. And so I'm like, we're going outside with our spray cans. Everyone's super excited. We're about to be graffiti artists. And so I give him all the spray cans. I'm like, Angel, no one touches these. And he's like, okay, okay. Go outside. I'm putting the tarp down because we're gonna put the papers on top of the tarp and spray paint on the floor. And I immediately hear shh before we even get started. And I'm like, oh no. And then someone's like, Mister. I look at Angel and he's spray painting the side of the school. I'm like, Angel. And he's like, I didn't know we couldn't do that. I'm like, Angel, you telling me you didn't know you couldn't spray paint the side of school? And he's like, all right. So we all had to go inside. But like afterwards, because I felt really bummed because I wanted students to still be able to do it, is I held after school, I'm like, hey, 2 days in a row, I was like, hey, anyone wants to come spray paint, come outside. We'll still do the lesson. And not only that, too, like I was in charge of, again, I was in the soccer coach who won the championship, football coach who won the championship. I was in charge of art club. We did once a week after school, did movie club after week. So after school. So that on top of Mondays and Fridays having what we had to say after for teacher prep, I never had a day where I came home on time, which would be like around 2:50.
Right.
Every single day, I'd go in at 7 o'clock in the morning. Minimum every day, I'd be home by five o'clock at night. And
Right.
sometimes, like with coaching and coaching, students wouldn't get picked up because parents are working 2, 3 jobs until
Yeah.
several times 7 o'clock at night. I'm still at the school waiting for the students'
Wow.
parents, and I'm like, doop but like again, you use that time to it might be killing you inside, but you never want to show that to students.
Yeah.
So you are
Yeah.
like, hey, this is all hey, dude, like because they're like, oh, I feel so I'm like, no, this is awesome. Like let's go in the we'll draw, we'll paint, we'll mess
Yeah.
around. This is awesome. Like, no, I love this time with you. And
Yeah.
I did enjoy that time, but it was as beautiful as teaching was.
It's exhausting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, and very last I'll say is one thing that you and I share in common is like at one point before teaching, I was in a very very dark space
Yeah.
mentally, and
Yeah.
because I wasn't at where I wanted to be relationship wise,
Yeah.
financially. Uh, at one point too, right before that, I had a stint where I was at home for about a year, living with my parents again at like
Yeah.
26, 27.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm serving, and this is the moment that another moment that hit me. I saw my high school history teacher, and he saw I was his server, and he goes, Jonathan, that's for those that don't know my real name, he's like, Jonathan, what are you doing here? And he didn't
Yeah.
mean it in a bad way, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? He's like, quote unquote, I'll never forget it, Mr. Jacobson, you were one of the good ones. Why are you a server? And
Ah.
that I had my first ever panic attack. So I'm like, oh, so I went
Ah.
in the back, I had this sharp pain in my back. Next thing I remember, whap, I got slapped in the face by my manager saying, "Wake up." I passed out. And then
What?
I'm in the ambulance, right? And this is another thing in my head. I didn't have health insurance. So I am freaking out over, I just had a panic attack over
Ah,
that. And then I'm in the ambulance saying, I can't go in the ambulance. I don't have health insurance. I can't pay for this. I can't
right,
pay for this.
right.
And my manager's like, you have to go. You just passed out like in the
Yeah,
restaurant. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
my God. So, uh, and when I started teaching, that saved my life. Like the
Yeah,
students, the I had purpose in life. My purpose now was
yes.
to support these students. And I have a tattoo on my arm. It's a Basquiat quote that says, "Most young kings get their heads cut off." And what that means is a lot of young students don't have the chance, the possibility, or even told they can make a living in this world because of their circumstances, because of where
Yeah,
they've grown up, because of the color of their skin, because of 100 different reasons. And it was my job as their teacher to let them know you are going to make it. You have
yeah,
purpose. We will get you out of here. You will be successful. And let me tell you, you have 100 reasons why you say you can't make it out. I'm going to give you 110 why you can make it out.
yeah,
And that was like, they gave me so much life. And I woke up every morning so excited to go to class, go to school. Again, it was the hardest work I've ever done in my life, but it was also the most rewarding. And I had the incredible teachers that let me have my freedom. Incredible Miss Cruzy and Miss Blackstone, who was my personal teaching coach. They helped change my life, and I will give them, and other teachers too, like Miss Montoya, who was the English teacher, but gave me so much advice. Miss
yeah,
Vigil, uh, there's I can go on and on, but like I had the most incredible experience because there were a lot of teachers that have terrible support from upper management, whereas um, mine were the most supportive ever. So I definitely lucked out there too, for
yeah.
sure,
Dude, that, like, kinda gave me chills, man, I'm not gonna lie, like, that was beautiful, and
appreciate.
one of the things that strikes I'm really interested in your answer. How did you and I'm sure this came in different ways, but what were some of your, techniques to really show the kids that you cared, like, you deeply cared? Because I know from the story that you just gave, you did. I'm interested in how you showed that.
Absolutely. So my teaching methods were a little unconventional.
Yeah.
Again, art class, I like to make things fun. So every single day when I would take attendance, I would literally stand on the desks and walk across the desks and like from one desk to another and be like just taking attendance. And imagine that the very first day, students are like, what is going on right now? And I'm like, again, I would do it every day. It's like it gets them excited. And
Yeah.
one thing too, greet students at the door. So some of my students, you might see some viral videos, but like I had handshakes with some of my students and just like little things like that that make the world a difference. And I will say this to anyone, even just outside of teaching, a great thing that I was taught was when you have to speak to a student, ground level. Get to their level, get on your knees, or
Mm.
not your knees, but
Yeah.
like squat down and you're looking at them eye level. So you're not coming at them from a point of power. You're coming at them of like, hey, I'm mutual. I am one-on-one with you. We're on the same level. And that was like one of the most important things I learned too. And also if a student is, you have to realize as adults too, we go through hell and we can't show it. And especially with students, you leave everything at that door. When you're in that classroom, the
Yeah.
only thing that matters in the world is that class. And I had so many teacher moments where one-on-one experiences with student where it not only changed me but changed them as well. And like I mentioned it before in our talk here. I had a student came in and always came in smelling like weed. 13 years old, always late to my class.
Yeah.
And always just kind of have to do the projects, but like would show up and came in, threw books across the table. Mister, I'm not doing anything. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, Sadie, like, you're gonna be doing some work today. And
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm like, how about this? I'm like, you don't have to draw. You don't have to. You can sit in this corner. Again, she went to her desk in the corner. I'm like, you can sit there if you want, just not focus on the work. All I ask, I want you to write down what's bothering you right now. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on in your world. You can keep it. Just write down what's going on in your head. You can put your head down, relax. just focus on you. Again, you got this pass for today.
Yeah.
Comes back at the end of the school day, gives me a hug, and is like, Mister, no other teacher let me like be me, let me relax, let me like vent. She's like, you have no idea how badly I needed that. And she's like, I really like it meant the world. Thank you for like showing me that you care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all I ask, show up on class on time. Just
Yeah.
the rest of the week, it was like a Wednesday. I'm like, just Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, please show up on class on time.
Yeah.
Next morning, first time looking for her, she's literally one of the first ones in the door. Mr. Like smiles, I'm on time, I'm on time. You happy? I'm like, yes, thank you. And then like she would call out other people that were late, and then she
Yeah.
would always show up on time. And I had so many of these kind of moments too. Like a really quick one too. I had another student who going through it outside during recess, and as our teacher, we have to we're in charge of keeping an eye on recess, make sure everyone's like doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I went over this one student going through hell, came over to her, just talked with her the entire time, just like one on one, what's going on. She kind of spilt it, and then she wrote me a one-page letter. I still have it. I have a lot of letters that the students sent me that I keep, and
It's
it
amazing.
literally just went. Yeah, it went through like Mr. Like it was really funny. It was cute. It's like you again, you went really above and beyond for me. You're one of my favorite teachers. I'll never forget you. P.S. I think you have really pretty eyes. And I was like, that was like pretty funny. But like,
I'll
I actually
agree
had
with
literally,
that, bro. I'll agree
yeah,
with that.
yeah, I had to show my no, thanks. I had to show my principal that one, but I was like, hey, just want to make sure I'm not crossing any line. I just want to show you this. And she's like, no, that's adorable, that's cute. But again, I've had hundreds of teacher moments where
Yeah.
it's the one-on-one that makes the world a difference. And there's techniques too that I've learned, but I could go on and on and on of like
Dude.
moments and things that help.
So I want to get to Web3, but I still just a couple of things I'm gonna touch on. One or a couple comments, and then let me do the comments first.
Mm,
I think what you said people need to hear. The world would be a better place if there were all teachers were you, right? Which is you go and above and beyond. And then two, the thing that you said the most is like you just have to tell, especially kids in the situation they were that you're teaching, that you care. Because a
mhm.
majority of their life, I'm sure they're told that no one does care, right? And you even said it. You said that person came back and said, "Thank you. I needed that because no one else was giving me the time of day." And yeah, you know what's ironic about the whole situation? That's what people need to hear in Web3 because it's a similar situation. It's gotten, we both know, like back in the beginning of the bull run before everything, back in the 2020s, 2021s, right? The clubhouse days, like it was that, hey, we're all out to help each other out. And then
Flag me.
quickly the billions of dollars get injected and you're not living up to whatever anyone else thinks that you should be living up, and then it goes sideways, right? And but I'm still firmly convinced there are some core people in this community in crypto, Twitter, and Web3 in general that really want to do the right thing. And those people, me, you, Tyler, Blue, all of these people I will introduce you to that have been through my show as well, we need to just be that loud voice in the room that we do care and we are trying to do the right thing. And even though we're not going to be perfect, it's going to be okay. So you said that, and that's beautiful.
The
Um,
power of I love you.
yes, it's huge.
So seminar, I took a seminar teaching of literally was an hour long of telling these students you love them and that but meaning it.
Yeah,
And so that
yeah,
it's so I'm so glad you brought that up as far as like letting know you care, because that girl that wrote the letter, the day before I took that seminar, right? The day before
yeah,
that day, I'm like, I want to put this into practice. And I'm like,
yeah.
hey, so you know, like I looked, I'm like, I love you. I'm
Uh-huh.
here for you. If you need anything, let me know. Because a
Yeah,
lot of these things, they weren't hearing that. They were like, it's just life is like
yeah,
that sometimes. Some of
yeah,
them living in wherever it may be. And I think literally just saying that one, I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you.
yeah.
That's what made her switch and be like, okay, I can trust him. I can go to him. I can talk
Yep,
to him with my problems now.
yep,
So yeah,
yep.
I entirely agree with you on that.
It's huge. And yeah, it could be a beautiful thing for this space as well. So I
Mhm.
wanted to talk about that because it was just beautiful the way she said it. And then two, the other thing that people need to hear from people like us that have been around and have continued to build. And I get a lot of messages, and I'm sure you get the same too. Is well, you even take district for instance, right? The amount of people that say, "Oh, I'm not the person that could be part of district. I'm not even going to apply," right?
Mhm.
You did something beautiful with that artist to just reach out. You knew you probably wasn't going to get back. You knew you probably weren't going to get a reply, but you still did it. And then she got back. And the most beautiful thing happened is she made these videos for your students. And now they actually believed, holy shit, these things are possible, right? And
Mhm.
it's the same message for the Web3 people that are really into it, understanding. I think one of the most beautiful things, I have an OG in my community. His name is the man. He literally is the man, and
Love that.
he's the man because I think everybody has a superpower, and immediately, like a district or something, you think you have to be like some uber artist, or you have to be a top influencer to even be like get through this application process and be selected. But the man and I had a great conversation. He was like, "You know what my superpower is? Getting people excited about things and just showing up every day and commenting on the people I believe." And I said, "That is absolutely something that people can be doing." And that is, we need that to progress the space.
Mhm.
And that is totally good enough. If you show up every day and show support to the people that you think are genuinely doing a good job, that is totally good enough too. And I think people need to hear the message that you don't have to be freaking Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg to be successful. And then in addition, just shoot a DM to me, to
Yes.
JR. You never know. We might get back. It might just be that time where our DMs are not filled up and we can answer that question, because you are going to find people like us in the space that care and want to help people out. So I just wanted to comment on that, because the way you described it, how you did it with your kids, is just another beautiful thing. But yet another way that we can relate it to Web3 and what people should be hearing that I don't think hear enough. So just beautiful, man. It was a
Spot
beautiful,
on.
beautiful conversation, man. And
Appreciate
then finally, the actual question that I have, and I'm interested in this, and then we'll go to Web3. You went from one of the lowest lows to becoming a teacher. I'm assuming you didn't know much about teaching and it was kind of a quick transition. You had to learn on your feet. Uh, how did you get through that? Like, was it just an evolution of, you had grin and bear it and learn on the spot, or were you going home and researching and studying? I'm interested how you got your through something that was like totally new and unique, on top of the fact that it was like not an easy place to teach. I'm just interested in how you build that skill set or what you did.
Yeah. So I think again, so fortunate enough to like in college, I had my bachelor's in art education. So I went through all those art teaching classes, and so I had like the core basis of it of like, all right, I know I need this is how I make lesson plans. This is how I do this. This is how I do that. But I'm gonna be honest. Besides the long, long, long hours, it was. I don't want to. I definitely don't want to say it was easy because it was not easy.
Yeah.
But it I was just so excited. You know when people are excited about something that you when you hear them talk, you get excited about it. You're like, "Wow, you're making
Yeah.
me excited about what you're doing." And that was me with art. So when I
Yeah.
had projects and I'm like, "You have no like I can't believe it. We're talking about this artist today and this is what we're doing." And students like, "Oh, yeah, let's do this." And it's like the transition, the only transition that was hard um was being so I'm the most disorganized human in the world. You can talk to my entire team.
Same here.
I yeah, it's so bad. And
Yeah.
like I can't I just do things the way I do it. I have sticky notes here. I got a million Google Docs. I have no organization whatsoever. And if Keli is listening to this, he's probably laughing his brain off right now, his head off. And so that was for me, I think the most challenging part was
Right.
getting grades in on time, getting this, doing this, showing up to here, doing that. But overall, I think I was just so proud and so happy to be teaching that it seems like the hard work to me at the end
Mhm.
of every day, I would go to bed exhausted, but I would always go to bed with a smile on my face. Like, I am so happy I am here because I look back at where I came from and all the struggles I went through to get to this point.
Hmm.
And like, even like, it took me to the point where like I was so proud, like going out to eat and meeting new people. It's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an art teacher. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not making money. I'm making 38K a year.
Yeah.
I'm barely scraping by, but I am so happy to say I'm an art teacher.
Yeah.
And uh, so for me, it was easy.
Yeah.
And I will say I had the best coach, Miss Blackstone, you could ever imagine in the world, and the best principal, Miss Cruzy, who were supportive a million, like tenfolds. And I couldn't have done it. I definitely could not have made it without them, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
And so that was beautiful, by the way. And you said two very critical things. One, you just basically said I had mentors, right? And mentors are
Yes.
so
Yes.
critical to help get you through. But then, interestingly enough, we're now going back to the beginning of the conversation is you had passion, right? You had
Hmm.
passion and you were proud, like legitimately proud of what you did. And I think um, one of the more beautiful things a guy said on our podcast too. Um, he broke it down in the way that, uh, his example was video games, right? He was like, "Listen, if your passion is video games, you can find a job in the video game industry. There's finance people, there's lawyers, there's marketing people. Like, you don't have to be a 3D video game artist guy, right? What your head naturally thinks. Um, so being able to find something that you're passionate about and then figure out how to get a job in that, I'd urge everybody to start thinking about that immediately, right? Because there's a lot of
Hmm.
people that are not happy right now, but to find something that you're passionate about, find something skill set that you have or a skill set that you want to learn and freaking go for it. And you did that, right? Like you combined art with teaching and you were able to get yourself to a really happy place, even though you weren't making a ton of money. And
Hmm.
that was just a beautiful story, man. I really, really glad we went down the teaching route because it's just and now I'm excited to get to Web3, and I think you now understand why I do what I do. We have literally been talking for an hour and a half.
And it
We
feels like 10
have
minutes.
well, one, it feels like 10 minutes. That's what I always
Yeah.
get excited. Uh, we have close to 500 people watching us on Twitter, which is
Wow. That's
insane, right?
wild.
Yeah,
That's
we don't
wild.
you don't get that many people in a space usually, but yet on to live on Twitter, no one freaking watches this, which goes to say that uh these stories are captivating, right? And it's interesting to people, but ultimately you see why I do what I'm doing. I now definitely got a very good slice of you as a human. And so now
Mhm.
when we get to Web3, this is what all founders should be able to do is share these stories. So now when you start telling me about what you're going to do, I'm going to be able to understand your skill sets. And now I just truly believe you're a good dude. And so whatever you're
Thank
doing,
you.
I am more inclined to spend my money with you and support what you're doing. So like that is ultimately why I do the format that we do. And you have done it an amazing justice so far. So I really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it, dude. Like beautiful, beautiful insight. So let's do this. What we can probably go for if you're cool, maybe another 45 minutes would be that would get us to basically we'll go through Web3. We'll do a little bit leading up because I definitely want to touch on like the 2021 craziness that we went through, even the pre like Clubhouse vibes and how that all because you were part of that Clubhouse era,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to talk about that because there's probably a lot of people that will watch this that didn't even know that existed, right? So I want to go through that. Then we can talk about obviously co-founding one of the most hype projects ever. We can talk about ups and downs there. Then we'll talk about the district. Obviously, want to talk about what you're doing, what the future looks like. Then I have one final question I ask all guests. We can say our goodbyes, and then, like I said, we have built a friendship live online. Like I said before, I promised you would do that.
This is
So
beautiful.
let's. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So let's do this, man. Where you think it's appropriate to start your Web3 journey? Uh,
I can tell
leaving
you
it totally up to you.
yeah, I started my Web3 journey in my mother's basement. So this is right before COVID.
Yeah.
I was again teaching out in Denver. COVID strikes. We can work from anywhere we want, right? Because we're
Right.
all on computers now. So I'm like, all right, I want to go back home, visit the family, and stay with them for a little bit. So I go back to New York, and my girlfriend at the time, again, I'm just doing my thing, and I one thing with being an art teacher, which in any profession, if you make your passion your main job, sometimes it loses the 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 love for it a little bit. So like with teaching art, I was teaching all this art, but I never had a chance to focus on my art and what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it always killed me a little bit. I wasn't able to do that. And my girlfriend at the time's like, "Oh, have you heard about this NFTs?" I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And she's
Right.
like, "Yeah, they're talking about it in Clubhouse on this app. You should check it out." And for like 2 weeks, I put it off. I'm like, it's a whole. It was scary. I'm like, whole new
Yeah.
world, like gas fees, blockchain. I'm like, I'm gonna stay away. And then she's like, no, you got to get in. Like, it's really interesting. And I'll never forget. So I joined the Clubhouse app. I joined the stage of it was Michael Rutledge, who is a big collector and to this day one of my best friends now. And
That's awesome.
Sabet, who's an incredible artist. And there was about two or three other people on stage. And the way they ran their room was you would go up on stage, ask one question, whatever you want to ask about NFTs, and we'll put you down. And what I did was I'd be teaching from like 7 a.m. till about 4 or 5 p.m. And this is a routine I did for about 3 months straight. I'd get off and I'd go on Clubhouse and no exaggeration, everyone can back it because we all did it from 7 o'clock at night to about 2 to 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then wake up again at 7 a.m. And I did this for about 2 to 3 months straight, to the point where not once but twice, and this is when I knew it got to a point where I had to quit teaching. I fell asleep on call. So on like the team call, after done exhausting from teaching, I was kind of leaning back, and because I got no sleep, and I had to put my video off once because I fell asleep, and the whole after school thing kept going on, but it was a whole mess. So like I will say it started in my basement, in my parents' basement, listening on Clubhouse, and I actually got pulled I think a pretty genius marketing maneuver which changed my life. So I created about 5 NFTs
Uh-huh.
and didn't sell any of them, right? And
Right.
I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, and I started building a really great community in Clubhouse. And so my whole journey started. A lot of people in the space don't know me. They only know me as the Only Force founder and the
Yeah.
district founder. They don't know that NFTs beforehand, how I got started. And
Yeah.
I there was a thing going on. We talked about this prior, but an artist, he goes by Burnt Banksy. He actually bought a print of a Banksy, around like I think $70,000 or $80,000, burnt it live on video, and then sold that artwork as an NFT later for about $300,000. I think it was like $300,000 or $400,000. And
Wow.
this was global news at the point. It outshadowed what Banksy was doing at the point as far as like Google Trends. And so it was worldwide news coverage all over the world, different
Yeah.
languages, and insane. And I looked, and it was a bidding war between these two people going back and forth for this piece. And I looked at both of their accounts, and I realized that none of them had anything else in their crypto wallet. So I'm like, this is when like sending people or airdropping people NFTs was unheard of. No one is doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just don't do it because it costs gas fee to send it. And it's like, what benefit does that do? So what I did was I waited to the moment that the one person bought the Banksy piece for like 300 or $400,000, and then I airdropped two of my I think I had three actually. I airdropped him two of my three works of art into his artwork. So it was a JR piece, a Banksy that went for 300 $400,000, that's worldwide, and a JR piece. So my in the next 10 minutes, I went from not selling one piece to making over $10,000 in 10 minutes. And
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
what the hell just happened? And I'm like, I'm literally getting goosebumps right now talking about it because that was
Yeah.
one of the moments that completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
And it was literally a fake it till you make it story.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden people were like, I was getting DMs all over the place. Who are you? Why does every piece? What's going on? What's going on? And
Yeah.
that lit an idea in my mind of like, what if I start airdropping my just one piece to like major collectors in the space, major
Right.
celebrities in the space? So that's what I started doing, and I think I kind of will take I I will take a lot of credit of this. Like when it was cool, okay to do it, is I was one of the ones that kind of started that meta of airdropping your pieces. So then, like when
Right.
Taco Bell had an account, guess who was one of the first people to give Taco Bell an NFT?
I
This
love it.
guy. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, yeah, that built off of it. And um, what people don't know is in my first 2 months of selling art, I made just shy of $200,000.
That's
And
insane.
yeah, and this is while I'm teaching art full time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish out this school year,
Yeah.
but after this, I'm done. I'm gonna focus full time on this NFT world. I'm gonna, again, at that time I felt extremely comfortable, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I have way more than enough financial support to make this leap. And so I quit, and then I started another big thing is I'm huge on the more you give, the more you get.
Oh,
And I spent
100%.
a lot of that money buying artwork back from the community. So all these people I spent, if you look at my OpenSea wallet, tens of thousands of dollars on personal artworks. So not just like PFP projects.
Right.
I'm talking about
Right.
artwork for people that were selling art and for art's sake. And that helped me out just as much as that other thing because they were saying, "Oh my God, my art got bought by JR. Thanks, JR. Thanks, JR." And so I even use that in a way. Again, I love supporting art and I love supporting people, love supporting dreams. But that itself too was marketing in a way. Again,
Mhm.
I like to think everything I did was kind of a controlled chaos.
Mhm.
And so that's where I guess my personal story got started. And then what really helped was I got a message from, if you know, two people actually, Dario, who's an incredible artist in the
Yep.
space, and Taylor, what the fuck, who is also
Mhm.
working with me right now on the district. Both of them sent me a DM and were like, "Yo, these bored apes, they got some pretty cool pictures. They're minting right now. You should take a look." And I got
Yeah.
this message at about like 11 o'clock at night. So I minted 11 of them, and then I got a 4 a.m. I see that they sold out, and silly me, I sold three of them way too early. I made it so they were
Yeah.
selling for 0.08, and I sold three of them for 0.16. I'm like, yeah, I just made a flip.
Ah.
This is awesome. And one of them was like a Deathbot skin, and I'm like, I don't care, like whatever. But later on, I will say, like, I've sold numerous stems for over like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like
Yeah.
that, again, a lot of people they think all this like success came from Oni. It did not. Like
Yeah.
I made six figures with my own art. I made multiple six figures selling Bored Apes. And
Yeah.
again, that community, being a part of that Bored Ape community made me realize what it takes to build a core beautiful community as well,
Yeah.
and that took me into Oniforce.
Yeah.
But
So that is a beautiful story. I want to say something interesting that just popped in my mind. So if you just hear that, I want to people that are just familiar with you, don't know who you are. You literally are like a legend in the space and the essence that no, you really are, man. I mean, you created one of the most I mean, you created one of the first and like everyone's like Azuki. It's like, nah, man, like like there was you before Azuki, right? There was your project before Azuki. You just went through the meta things. And this is what I want to point out, and this is going to be one of many shorts that comes from this conversation. I want everybody right here, right now, that is trying to make bajillions of dollars listening to these shitbag influencers because they have, uh, I don't know, 200,000, 300,000 followers, and they're doing copy pasta and they're trying to make you buy these fucking horrible shit meme coins. You just heard the beginning of this journey. How many followers do you think JR has? Guess what? It's south of 50,000. These are the types of people that you should be listening to, not the people that have 150,000 followers and are copy pasting bullshit meme coins. Like, this is what people need to hear and need to understand, that if you get to connect, and if you're like, hey, I just lucked upon Mikey G and Midlife Crisis podcast. This doesn't happen often that I get to hear a story like this. And it's like, well, that's a lie, because you're a human too, and you can reach out and figure out people who know these people, hop into a Discord and chat with these people. And it's on you all for not trying to find the people that are building the space correctly. And not to say JR is perfect, not to say I am perfect, right?
Furthest from
But
it.
the intentions are good, and that's what matters. So I'm not going to name names, but you all probably know I would literally unfollow and mute those people, because you're doing yourself a disservice, and you need to find more people like JR. I just had to do that public service announcement, man,
Appreciate it.
because
Thank you.
it is the thing I think that frustrates me most about the space. Um, and 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 now back to the question, though. I think the other thing that people need to understand about what you just said is, you put yourself out there, you took a risk, and you had no clue what it was gonna pan off. My interpretation of why it worked, though, um, was, I would say, the first part of, like, seeing the trend and then getting your artwork into that guy's wallet. That was some solid timing. But
Mhm.
then you then followed it up with what I think is paying it forward, acts of kindness, in the sense of, you bought more artwork back, and you redistribute that wealth a little bit. Is that what you would attribute part of that journey to, or am I missing something there?
No, 1,000%. I think back then too, especially the whole resident, like everyone was thinking "wag me," and we all truly believed it. We were all
Yeah,
gonna make it, and that was like a everyone supported everyone. It wasn't just me. Like anyone that's like, "Hey, can you hop in this clubhouse with me? Can you hop in this Twitter space? Can you share this?" And it's like this whole sentiment of like, "Hey, if you can't purchase a work of art, understandable. Like some of the works of art were pretty expensive, but it's like." You know what's free is leaving a comment. You know what's free is retweeting this. You know what's free is just showing up and saying, "Hey, this person has work for sale. Hey, I can't afford it, but would love for you to check it out." And again, that alone has a perfect example too. So I was in a space, a clubhouse space. This one, like Farouk was leading the clubhouse. Absolutely, he was crushing it on Clubhouse. Had like literally at points thousands of people in the space.
yeah,
And I forgot what artist he had on stage, but I went up and I was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know," and I really did. I'm like, "I absolutely resonate with your artwork. I love it. I think it's incredible. I just want to let you know I purchased your work. Proudly gonna post this on Twitter." Da da da. While I was talking, and this is a nice little marketing for anyone out there, and I learned that was the moment I learned. Okay, I'm gonna use this as well in the future. Is while I wasn't even talking about myself. I was talking on stage for about 2 to 5 minutes, giving all the love to this artist, talking
mhm,
about the artist's piece, bragging about this artist, saying how incredible this artist is. While that was happening, in that span, I sold 3 works of art.
yeah,
And I wasn't even talking about myself, talking about my
mhm,
art, nothing. I was just completely focusing on this person.
yeah,
And that was like a green light in my head too of like, um, I learned one thing I learned a lot about Clubhouse too. It's like I mean, we don't have to go into like about Clubhouse because that's kind of obsolete now. But like I learned, you have to show up. You got to be on
yeah,
stage, and again, the more you give, the more you get. So the more
yep,
I was supporting others, the more I was receiving tenfolds back from the universe.
yep,
And I
yeah.
think again, it's uh, give as much as you can, and I'm telling you right now, it'll come back tenfolds for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, absolutely, and I mean, Twitter Spaces kind of replaced that, and I think,
Absolutely.
and in a more, there's definitely it's a different vibe, right? But,
Mhm.
it's it's unfortunate that WAGME is morphed into what it is today, but that's honestly the nature of the beast. You couldn't expect it
Yeah,
to last like that forever. It was
of
so
course.
small, and now it's gotten bigger, and it's pretty much impossible. Now you can have that in pockets, and we can really try hard to make that a thing, but it's difficult and ever expanding pace. I so I love the bragging comment. Yet again, another just fantastic short. The before we get on to Oni, you said one thing that was super interesting, which is you used Bored Ape as a education piece on how to build something properly. Take me through that because I think that's a really interesting comment. What did you learn there? What were you paying attention to? Because I think that could be helpful for other people.
Absolutely. So, first thing I learned was when we were all together in this clubhouse room making monkey noises together for absolutely no reason. At one point, too, like the president of Time magazine, Keith Grossman's in there. We got like the founders that were in there with us as well. And then we started like raiding other rooms and all jumping in other rooms with our Bored Ape profile pictures. And uh, that like led me into his name's Burning Bush. He created this project called 8-Bit Booties, and it was like these little butts that were 8-bit, and we all used them as our profile picture, and then we would jump into other spaces, other rooms, and all of a sudden there was like 100 people in this room with these 8-bit booties, and it was like all you hear on stage is, "What is going on right now? Why all these like 8 bits on our like butts in our room? What are they listening to? Like what are they doing?" And but then all of a sudden they were like, "Hey, bring someone up on stage. Let them talk about their project. What's going on, guys?" And like we'd start laughing. We'd jump on stage, and so that kind of gave me the mindset of also guerrilla marketing of like,
Yeah.
if you can get a core solid group, and all you need is about 100 people. If they live and breathe your project, that is all you need, because at the end of the day, the best marketing is word of mouth marketing. So
Yeah.
you are going to trust someone that you truly like. If one of my best friends is like, "Hey man," again, perfect example, Dario, "Hey, check out this art project. Incredible art. Seems like a cool project. I want you to check it out." I went all in. I checked it out, and that's how I found the Bored Apes. If you see some of these like influencers, like again, 200, 500,000 followers that just shill things that they get paid to shill, I'm not looking at that garbage. Like I'm just gonna
Right.
bypass it. No, absolutely not. Like I'm not about that life. So one thing I learned too is the importance of connecting one on one, and word of mouth marketing is everything. So treating your community well and great is something I learned, and I will say this, something I took advantage of with the OnlyForce community.
Yeah.
We can get into that in a second, but there was a point in time where I pointed the blame elsewhere,
Right.
and it was on me, and I was
Yeah.
pointing the blame on the community, and
Yeah.
I again learned the hard way. Something I
Yeah.
learned, but something I am taking with me into district, and I
Yeah.
think that's why right now our district community, OnlyForce community, is incredible too, but our district community, it's bar none, I think, one of the best communities I've ever been a part of in my entire life, because they are so supportive. But it's because of I learned the hard way of what I should not do with OnlyForce and what I should do with OnlyForce, and took it to my
Yeah.
district.
That have you heard of we're working together now because he's been on my podcast. I've created a lot of really close friendships through this process, as you can imagine. It's called DSK DAO. This guy name is Blue. I'm
No,
gonna
I'm
have to
not sure.
link you up. So
Please, please.
perfect same concept. So he's been working for over 3 years at this point, and he has a free collection that's 222.
Mm,
And it's 222 for the same exact reason. And me and him are firm believers is like you said, 100 people, 200 people. And I don't know if I told you this maybe in our intro conversation is I suck at investing. I will never be good at investing. I need to pay somebody to invest. This to me is brand 3.0. In the future, really successful people from this space, yes, there will be a ton of successful tech companies, but I really do think we can revolutionize brand in the sense that district, um, DSK, if you do it properly with brand being your community, and Bored
mhm.
Ape did it right for a while, but then it fell apart because it got corporatized. And what I think you need to keep, sorry, my dog's like, "Hey,
Go.
stop barking." Uh, is if you keep the community front and center and use them as the power to propel your company forward, I think magical things can happen that we've never seen before. The only thing that I can think of from a Web 2.0 who kind of manifested it more than I can think of anybody else is Red Bull, right? They could have created a brand that created a culture that really like brought it to the forefront, which is that extreme sport world, right? That counterculture world. They used brand to create a lifestyle. What's different about Web3 is the community is your brand, right?
Mhm.
And we're not doing it. No one has used it properly. And I think DSK and I think you have a very, very good chance of doing it right. Um, so that's what I wanted to say because I think you're right. The other thing I wanted to say is I think you're spot on with one to one. Like I said, my process for this show is no one comes on the show unless I talk to them for a half hour in an intro call. We vet each
Mhm.
other. We understand what we each other are about. Like, how would this podcast go if I just did the space style and was like, "Hey, come up on stage. Let's see how this goes." Right? But
Mhm.
that little thing that I just one extra thing. Yes, does it take a lot of extra time out of my day? Absolutely. But is it
Mhm.
worth it? Yes, because it's allowed me to build relationships, but also made me realize that I think the answer is in front of everybody's face because it's so simple, but no one wants to realize it. We've gotten so caught up in these vanity metrics of how many followers do you have? How many likes are you getting? When it's literally called social media. You know what the most effective thing you can do in social media is? DM and get somebody on the phone. Like, it
Yes.
is literally called social media, and that is the most effective thing that you can do. Talk to as many people as possible, and you're gonna be able to utilize these platforms way better than you would be trying to create some groundbreaking content to get a bunch of likes. No one gives a shit at this point. And by the way, I just have been reading tons and tons of articles about this, and the fact YouTube's already changed their algorithm. They're all in the same content is really gonna like, a lot of these vanity metrics are even
Yes.
gonna go away in the algorithm, right? So unless you're creating content that resonates with your audience, then these algorithms aren't gonna give a shit anymore. And how do you do that? How do you find your audience? You need to talk to people. You need to
Mhm.
understand your audience with conversation. So I'm glad that you said that because that's a beautiful thing as well. So now you've learned about Bored Ape. Let's go get into Oni, and then I want to spend the rest of the time on District, and then we'll close it out.
That sounds beautiful. Oni Force. Whew, what a roller coaster.
I want ups and downs as much as you're comfortable
Yes.
sharing.
Yeah, I'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. The good, uh, I'll start from day one. So day
Yeah,
one, it all started again. Same thing with District. Started with the DM. I DM'd I'm Complex, who is one of the best artists I've ever had a chance to want to work with, but just in general.
yeah,
Um, and I saw his artwork. I thought it was incredible. And actually, before this, funny, if you know the band The Gorillas, and
yeah.
actually a lot of people don't know this either, how Only Force got started. So, or the artwork in this the first ever side PFP project. I looked at a Gorillaz album, cover album, and
Uh-huh.
all of them were looking sideways and had this like cool cartoony vibe and
Yep.
anime. I'm like, yo, that is amazing. And I'm like, I want to try doing this. So I tried drawing it, couldn't draw a character that looked remotely close to what I had imagined. And I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see I'm Complex's work. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, I connected with him in Clubhouse a few times, let me send him a DM. And the very first DM I sent him was, hey, what's up, I'm Complex. Huge fan of your work. And we even posted this on Twitter. And I was like, I think I have an idea that could make us $1 million. Do you want to hear it? And his response back was, as long as it's not an animal PFP project, I'll listen. And I was like, yeah, I was like, awesome. Because this is when, like, after the Board Apes, every different animal you can think of was created as
Yeah,
a PFP
yeah.
project.
And they all had laser eyes.
Yes, facts. And so he's like, I'm like, here, this is the idea I have. Give him a few concepts to go off of. And I'm like, see what you can come up with. And I thought he'd have like one or two designs. The very next day, he had like 4 or 5 complete characters done and is like, let's build this. Let's get a team. Let's start creating something. Let's get this off the ground. And I'm like, as soon as I saw his art, I knew. I'm like, this is something special. This is
Yeah.
something that I've
Yeah.
not seen in the space. Again, it's gonna be the first anime PFP project, first side profile PFP project. It's different. It stands out. And I'm like, all right, who do I know that could help build this? And at the time, I met Strawberry in LA, and Strawberry just built his Jared just built his project too, called like the 10,000 different strawberries. And I'm like, and Gary V got on board with that, and like he sold it out, blew it up. And I'm like, all right, I know Jared can make the website back end work, and we got in Crypto Spaces, who is I'll say to this day one of the smartest men I've ever met in my entire life, and they work together on the back end, front end of the website and building, and a lot of the lore came from them. And then we're like, we need a community manager, and then we brought in Mbergy. And Mbergy was incredible with community, always on Twitter Spaces, always just like literally put together, I always said it, the Avengers. So at our
Yes.
time, we were all at our peak. Me with marketing, and with community, Strawberry, Crypto Spaces with dev work, and again, the incredible art of I'm Complex. And we pieced together this perfect storm. And one thing I did with Oniforce, a lot of the OGs members, when starting the project, I wanted no distractions at all. And I did what, if anyone see Rocky 4,
Yeah.
when he's fighting the Russian and he goes into the wilderness to get away from his family and just focus on that. I took the same concept. I went to Mexico, Tulum, completely by myself for 2 months, no friends, no family, nothing. And I just focused entirely on the project. So the morning I woke up, 7 in the morning till 9, 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, I was just completely focused on the project. I had no
Wow.
distractions. And going to Mint again, I was middle school art teacher, just got into NFTs. Then like I was again about 2, 3 months later, started building Oniforce, and we immediately sold out. And a lot again, I can go to a lot of the marketing tactics I used. Didn't spend a
Yes.
penny. I won't bore us with some of those, but like I think a lot of really genius little kind of things I did that helped build the hype of this project, which took it from a mint to, in the first 8 days, it traded $110 million in the first 8 days.
That's insane.
Yeah,
Now,
and
now a
yeah,
little bit of it is timing too, but I would say
a
your
lot
blood,
of it, a lot of it is timing.
blood,
Yeah,
sweat, and tears went into it too. But you're talking about, I am firmly convinced a time in NFTs that will never be replicated again.
I agree. I
Uh,
agree.
I don't think we're ever gonna, I was one of the original Hate Beast mod. There was 1 million people in that Discord server.
That's insane.
A million, dude. In
Hmm.
a Discord, not a Twitter follower, in
Yep.
a Discord. Yeah, it's just never gonna be replicated again. But, 110 million in 8 days, that's insane. I am gonna force you to at least give me 1 or 2 of those marketing tactics because I think that
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be
yeah.
great tidbit of information. What do you think are top 1 or, just 1 or 2 or the top ones that you use to kinda create that fervor and hype?
I got you right now. And I will say this too, though, before going to that, working with district, realizing this marketing back then has to be done completely different than marketing now, because
Mm,
hype marketing is not the way you want to go, because you
no.
see a million projects, hype, 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 mint, crash.
Game over.
And so with us, one huge tip I'll tell people is, if you want to get the attention of, let's just say, anyone on Twitter, and I literally just did this with the district too, with Iggy Azalea, is I put notifications on for Steve Aoki, Gary V, Ja Rule at one point, because he was like big in the space at one point.
Mhm.
And I put my notifications on for them. So whenever I saw they put out a tweet, I knew that I had 2 minutes to catch their attention, because I know they're going to be by their phones for at least the next 2 minutes, probably checking immediate comments and responses. So all of a sudden, Steve Aoki puts out a tweet. I immediately go on Twitter, I already had the tweet planned out, copy, paste. Hey, NFT community, we love Steve Aoki. Let's get him a part of our community. Comment down below. And all of a sudden, 100 tweets come in. A minute later, Steve Aoki's in our DMs. Hey, what's this project about? What's going on? Like all the
Yeah.
hype. It's cool. What's happening? And I was like, hey, and that's where we're like, I can't believe I'm talking to Steve Aoki now. And next thing you know, we're flying out, meeting Steve Aoki in Vegas, and
It's
he's
insane.
like doing this whole, yeah, insane. And he's like, this whole big ordeal, and then did it again with Gary Vee. Then Gary Vee's in my DMs, and it's like, but another thing too, like the more you give, the more you get. This is post, like about 2-3 days post mint, got Gary Vee's attention, and he's like, this is the point everyone's giving him free stuff, and only forced, I think the floor was 7 ETH, and at the time like ETH was like 3,600 or
Yeah.
3,800, so
Yeah.
it was a almost a $40,000 PFP. Oh, sorry, like $30,000 PFP at this point, just under. And I was like, "Hey, man, do you have any cool ones we can give you?" And I'm like, "It's a lot of money to just like give someone." And I'm like, "You know what? I gave him. So I bought my Forever Oni. I bought it. Oh, I bought it and I gave it to him. I was like, here you go, man. I'm gonna gift you this. I just want to let you know the floor price right now. I think it was like there, maybe it was like 25,000. Here you go. I'm literally gifting you a $25,000 PFP. All that I ask, you hop in our Discord, you join the community. Gary Vee goes in Discord, it explodes again. Now the
Yeah.
whole Web3 space is looking at us. And then uh the one that kind of like, there was a few moments with like celebrities that kind of like went above and beyond, but then we did the same thing with Logan Paul, and that's
Yeah.
when it just, that was it. And that's when it went absolutely astronomical, because then he bought the highest ever Oni at like $600,000 and change for one of our commies, which is one of our Oni gods. And so we built this hype.
Yeah.
And again, the marketing thing is, to come full circle to talk about marketing, is if you want to get someone's attention, turn their notifications on,
Mhm.
and as soon as they tweet something, I'm telling you now, you have about 2 minutes to get their attention while they're on their phone or
Yep.
computer, wherever they are, and have your community support you, and get your whole community behind it to get their attention. And we did that with Iggy. We had our incredible artist Evie already drew the Iggy profile picture. We had it in our back end just waiting, and we're like, all right, when are we gonna post? When are we gonna post? And then we saw her tweet out, and I'm like, now go. And so we put out the tweet of Iggy. We said, all right, everyone, like we made it a part of one of our quests. Like, everyone go comment on Iggy's things.
Yeah.
We had our community get behind it. Next thing you know, a few hours later, Iggy literally retweeted it or quote tweeted it, said, "Yo, this is badass." Sent us a DM. I'll leave it there, but like and now Iggy Azalea was in our DMs for
Yeah.
the district, and
Yeah.
so you don't want to overuse that kind of tactic, but it is again, that's one major thing that I think made a big difference for us, was waiting for the perfect time and then using the support of your already built community
Right.
to get their attention too. Because maybe they don't notice one tweet from someone, but if all of a sudden there's 100 people saying district, Oni, they'll be like, well, okay, what is this now? Let me check this
Right.
out. So
Right.
that was one thing that definitely helps.
And that's a beautiful story and relates to exactly what I was saying, brand 3.0, right? You're
Hmm.
most people that are buying now, listen, it's a little technically you're still offering a product, which is art, right? But
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
I don't know, you're not doing that for Tide or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But um you're still, no matter what brand it is, I'm even firmly convinced if you had the right message behind detergent and you used Web3, you could still get a community of people to like go be your
Absolutely.
evangelist, basically, right? And that is, you just nailed it. That is the power of brand 3.0. And if you can use and continue to harness that, because listen, it's never going to exist on Twitter forever, and you're going to
Hmm.
have to continue to stay innovative and learn how to harness your community in effective ways. But if you can do that, the world's your oyster, man. I'm firmly convinced. But that is timing, that is genius marketing, and that is the power of community and Web3 right there, all wrapped into one. So thank you for sharing that, dude.
No, absolutely. Again, that was again, I think it's perfect transition. That was the peak Oni force. We had
Yeah,
every single person reaching out. Like Stevie Aoki too was like, hey, we want to create a card game for you. We had FaZe Banks like, hey, let me get a part of this too. And we had
yeah,
the biggest, like some of the biggest names ever wanting to be a part of that project. We had, and I will say this too, we had a team of incredible writers that were pitching us to go have an anime on Netflix and on Hulu. He's like, hey, we're gonna
yeah,
get it out. We want to get you. And I'm like, this idea is incredible. But we had, again, a million people coming at once. So then we didn't take a lot of these deals that
yeah,
in hindsight, I'm like, holy shit, what if we were the first ever to accept this? And the reason why I didn't is because they wanted a large portion of our company
Yeah.
to run this Netflix series. And we're like, at that time, we're like, we don't need that. Like, we
Yeah.
don't, like, we're doing just fine on our own. No thanks. And that ultimately, a lot of those small little choices we made slowly kind of led to the decline and
Yeah.
and downfall of the project. And um, I will say this again, the OnlyForce community was incredible. And
Yeah.
to talk on the downfall, I think a lot of that, and I will say this, a lot of it did fall on my shoulders. And the
Yeah.
reason why is we built, I will say this, I again, it takes the whole team to build it, but a lot of the marketing, a lot of the hype came from a lot of the
Right.
ideas that I had. But again, it's everyone had to put everyone on the team did their work. Everyone, if one person didn't do something, the whole project would have collapsed. So it
Yeah.
was definitely a full team to get us there. But a lot of the downfall happened because I knew marketing, but I didn't know PR. I didn't know public relations at
Right.
all, and I didn't know how to manage a now again $110 million company. Again, we only got a small percentage of that, but it was still pretty. It was still very nice.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Um, However, I didn't treat it right, and where I again, one thing we're doing different with the district is I got so burnt out, and I never
Yes.
thought in my life I thought it'd be possible because I was doing something I loved 7 days a week for, at the time, it was like just on Oni, I think it was like 6 months straight. I didn't want to open up Twitter. I didn't want to. I didn't want to go to any meetings. I didn't want to do anything because I just didn't want to think about anything NFT related. I was so burnt out of just
Yeah.
work, 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 7 days a week nonstop. And the blessing and curse of Web3 is, especially being a founder, is it's a blessing that you can contact a founder and say, "Hey, I have these great ideas." It's also a curse where it's like, "Hey, I have these
Yeah.
ideas. Like, fuck you. What are you doing?" And
Right.
so at one point, being literally the highest point in my life, like mentally, to the lowest point in my life mentally of,
Yeah.
and again, I've said it a million times before, like I take full responsibility for not producing the results I should have produced with the community, incredible community we had. And
Yeah.
again, I've been on spaces before talking about this, and I I like talking about it now too
Well,
because
that's leadership too, is
Mhm.
taking ownership and responsibility, right? At the end of the day, like I'm glad that you said that too, but I'll tell you what, I've thought about NFTs too, but I said no because I didn't want to go through what you went through.
Yeah,
And I saw that writing on the wall and I was just like, I just don't want the weight of $110 million of people money. And now I have to live up to, I mean, that's a lot of money, man. And
yeah,
that's a lot to live up to. And it's all happening quick at once. Like you said, you've got
pop,
all
pop,
these
pop, pop.
celebrities and it is just popping all at once. Let's be honest. Other than an Elon Musk brain at that point, not many people in
Mhm.
this world could have managed that situation.
Yeah, we should have. I think again, everything is hindsight. Is we should have built immediately a bigger team,
Yeah,
a PR team. We should again, all of us. We're not. We had no. None of us on the team had business background. We were
yeah,
lacking a business mind
mhm,
to do that for us. And it's like, what? Why didn't we think hindsight to do that? And uh, again, it was a lot to the point where again I was getting, and this is on a daily, no exaggeration, death threats. Somehow my address got leaked, so I was getting
oh,
letters written to me. I was getting
yeah,
phone calls at all hours of the night, and but I will, and it was horrible because again, and then going into Twitter and Discord, and the only thing you're seeing is people literally saying they hate you. I understand why though, because if I
yeah,
invested my only 20, $30,000 in this PFP, and then all of a sudden you think the founders aren't doing anything, and we were trying, we were doing everything we could to like to make it work, and it just something wasn't clicking after all that success. Like I understand their pain, but at that time, I didn't. At that time, I'm like, I'm fucking trying, and like I was getting angry with the community, and I was like, why are you guys not supporting us? We're trying, and but in hindsight, they were doing everything they could to support us. They were like, they were
yeah,
there through the hell, the the fall, the everything, and uh looking back, I was pointing fingers, and it took me about 2 months after the whole downfall to realize why I'm pointing fingers at everyone else but myself right now.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
it took me. I had this talk with you, but and no one really knows this. And we had this talk about it, but the lowest point in my life, my immediate team knows this because they let me to like, hey, take a break. But first time I went to Joshua Tree is a point where the hate got so bad and so I could not mentally deal with it anymore because one, not only did I let the community down, I let myself down, I let
Yeah.
a lot of my close friends down. Like I
Yeah.
still to this day, one of my best friends, his name is Brendan North, incredible photographer. He's like, hey man, like he'll every now and then he'll remind me, like, hey man, just let you know, like I spent thousands of $1,000s at PFP and now it's not really worth anything. And I'm like, dude, I'm like again, I'm so sorry. And again, but to him, that was literally like
A lot of
almost all the
money.
money he had. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I went out
Yeah.
to Joshua Tree, booked a one night stay, and I was gonna take my own life. I was like, this is it. This is where it ends. I had a pre-planned tweet that was gonna go out. I had letter done. I
Jeez.
had everything. I had my my old fashioned, and I won't go into too much detail how everything was going to happen, but I
Yeah.
was like, this is it, this is done. And I had uh, just an incredibly magical moment in Joshua Tree that saved my life. A bunch of Marines out there saved my life, and I won't go too much into that, but I again I was at the lowest of lows points in my entire life
Yeah.
uh, that Web3 did it. Like again, Web3, the pressure did that to me, and all this kind of conspired and transpired because of, again, I learned a lot, and one of the major things I learned was learn to breathe and take a break and learn
Yeah.
that you can't do 24/7. And so one of the biggest things we're doing with district is, and I'm stand by it again, I'm a huge mental health advocate, especially after everything that's happened, is
Yeah.
we have Sundays off. So Sundays in our Discord's closed. Besides like District Square, the outskirts is completely closed.
Yep.
We encourage people on the weekends, go touch some grass, take a break,
Hmm.
take a breather. Life is too short. There's a life outside of Web3, and that's why we
Yeah.
have, especially on the third Sunday of every month, we call it District Day because we want people to go out, put my charger in, and know that there's more to life than just NFTs. And again, that was again the rise and fall of Oni. And the biggest thing I learned too, and I want to give just a massive shout out to Starlordy, who is the new CEO at OniForce. He has done, and the whole team, Art Snitch, Vert,
Yeah.
and their whole team, Old Fashioned Research Fund, which again I think is so funny because Old Fashioned is my drink. It has just a
Yeah.
weird, deep sentiment meaning to me,
It's
and
a full circle
because
there.
yeah, like the darkest moment of my life, had my last Old Fashioned, and to Old Fashioned Research Fund took over, and they have done an incredible job
Yeah.
with OniForce, with the revival, with bringing back the community again. And I was in a space about 2 3 days ago, and the whole space was what brings community together too is going through hell. So a lot of the community that went through that turmoil with us with OniForce um, also were brought together by almost like, I hate to say it, but like a hatred of the founders in a way. And but
Yeah.
at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like now like I've mended a lot of those relationships because I think one, I owned up to it, but
Yeah.
two, I kept showing up. So I was getting all that hate, but I kept showing up in Discord, I kept showing up on Twitter, and just taking the beatings that I fucking deserved.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I know I deserve this, hit me, hit me, hit me. But it got to a point after a few months of being told you're worthless like every day for a few months. I was like, as a man, I can't handle this anymore. And I'm like, this is it. And
Right.
so I, once we sold OnlyForce, I told myself I'll never ever touch another NFT project ever again. And I, on God, I could not. I still to my day, like I rarely open up Twitter messages because I have severe anxiety about what people are going to say
Yeah.
to me. Same thing with Instagram, uh, because I literally do have like PTSD from it, and I didn't create another NFT artwork for I think it was about a year and a half. I
Yeah.
didn't create art because I'm like I don't want to put anything out. I don't want to do anything Web3 related. I was
Yeah.
still in the space, still supporting other communities, but as far as myself, I needed a
Yeah.
year and a half to at least think about working on
Yeah.
something else. And it wasn't until 2.5 years later, I think, that we were here at District, or 2 years
It
later. So it's wild.
isn't that insane though that like We both been through very similar things. Like you said, Twitter gives you anxiety, and somehow we connected through Twitter
Yeah.
DMs. So, like, we caught at a very probably small moment that you were paying attention. And I think it was a couple people that shouted my name out, and I
Yeah,
commented
yeah.
it, and you got back. That's exactly what we did. I used your marketing
Mhm.
tactic. But I was lucky because I was, like, on vacation with my family, and I was like, "Oh, I got this alert from
Mhm.
district. I've been hearing about this," and I just replied at the right time, so it worked out. One man, thank you for sharing that. You didn't even need to
Appreciate it.
share that, but that is and I will say this, man. One, I've been in similar positions, but if you can get through it, like we said, and it's interesting that you mentioned the group of Marines because support and people around you is by far the number one thing that you need in times like that, right? So
Yes. Yes.
randomly that happened is just a beautiful thing to hear. But two, that more and more people and founders, I hope, come out and talk about this because I get it, man. It's a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you're not holding a gun to anybody's head to spend $30,000 on a PFP.
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
end of
yeah.
the day, these people are making their own decisions. They're grown human beings, and they're doing it ultimately in kind of selfishness. Because if you really took, I mean, just take a step back. Is a piece of artwork that is what was Oni 10,000, 7,000.
7,777. Yeah.
Should 7,000 of those be worth $40,000? Probably not. Should
Mhm.
1 or 2? Yeah, absolutely, but not 8,000, 7,000 of them. But I get it, you get wrapped up in all that time, but people need to hear your stories because it's what I this is what I always say about my situation is you actually mentioned how you were, teacher in a, like, a ghetto district before. I lived in downtown Baltimore, right?
Mm.
You wanna talk about a rough area. It was rough. There are 3 places in Baltimore that you can live without not worrying about getting literally shot in the head. And what I say and what I'm trying to say to people that listen to this is it's very easy to get angry and say, "Screw these people. I would have done it different. I'm better." But until you're in this position where you're getting death threats, you're scared from your family because you actually took the initiative to do something that what most people would not have done and then felt the repercussions. And the fact what you did is exactly what you needed to do to rebuild that image, which is own up to it. Don't go away. You took the appropriate time to go away because you need that to
Mhm.
recover from that. But what I'm getting at is when you go through something like that, for instance, my mental health, if I would have went through that in the ghetto of Baltimore and had, no dad, and God forbid, like my mom's addicted to crack, well, guess what? I would have done some really horrible shit, right? So
Mhm.
what I'm
Mhm.
getting at is until you walk an actual step in these people's shoes, I promise you, and I know it's really hard, but empathy, even in those situations, and I don't think I told you this. I have, um, so my actual mission statement for my company is bringing back the lost art of genuine human connection. As we get more
Love that.
connected, I think it's critically important to do what we're doing now because people are so quickly hide behind the screens and do horrible shit like they did to you, right? And it's just unacceptable, and it's going to become more and more commonplace. We might be at the point of no return already, but I can do my damnedest to bring the genuine human connection. But that came out of a 6-page manifesto down to 1 sentence, and that took, like, months upon months upon months with me and my co-founder, and then we have 4 pillars, and one of the pillars, is be kind, especially when it's hard, and this is a perfect example of, like, if you can do that in these times, I guess what? The handful of people in that Discord when you're at your lowest of lows, if they just would have reached out and said, "Hey, JR, I I I've lost a shit ton. I am angry, but I'm also here to help. You know, I care as you as a human, like how impactful would that have been, right? And that's what people need to hear, and they need to hear these messages because it is different. And then I will also add on, the final thing I'll say is, you remember Phantom Network?
Hmm. Hmm.
You remember, well, obviously Digimental and Hape, Norm from Clementine Nightmare. I don't know if you remember that crazy hype gaming project. All of these guys, Dex was literally on my show, told me he collapsed in his apartment. This dude worked 20-hour days for a year straight, right?
Hmm.
And what did he get in return? Crucified, right?
Hmm.
And the main other message that everybody needs to hear from this is, you can work hard for a season, but you cannot do it indefinitely. And people absolutely need to figure out what their limit. Some people's limits higher than others, but it is
Absolutely.
impossible. Humans just do not operate that way. And I think about that a lot. And I think everyone else in this space should be thinking about that a lot too. So that story that you just gave us has so many takeaways, and we could go even more. But that was incredible, man. Thank you so much for
For sure.
sharing that. I want to spend the rest of the time on the district, because now we are at 2 hours and 20 minutes, and and
Let's go.
we have yet talk about the district. So we really should probably do that. Beautiful
Mhm.
Web3. We're gonna have many more conversations. We're gonna be able to make many more video content. But I do want to do you justice. And by the way, honestly, I think the conversation up to now has done you justice. If someone listens to this and is like, you know what, I don't think districts for me, I just don't think you're really a human that has a heart, right? Because what you have just taken us through is an incredible journey. And now, not only is that an incredible journey, you have all these learning lessons from that journey to apply to district, which is probably the most exciting thing that has come from this conversation so far. You've gone through these insane ups and downs. We know that you're a caring human being because you just love people, and you dealt with kids and made them better people in horrible situations. You made a ton of money. You made some mistakes. You got death threats, but you're still here in front of the camera talking about your story. That is the person that I want to get behind. So tell me why. I always start with this: 2 minutes or less elevator pitch. You're going up in the elevator, Silicon Valley place, and you're trying to convince me why I should believe in the district. What is that?
Oh, oh. If we've been on a few spaces, and I will say this, believe in the districts because, and I'm not even going to say how incredible our core team is. Community. Our again, I keep harping on it, but our community right now, I have never in my life seen a community so strong, so passionate, like a
Yeah,
core community, and it's we are building something again. We don't like to announce anything because unless
yeah.
it's completed. So one thing I learned is don't make an announcement for an announcement about something that might or may not happen.
Number one
And
mistake in Web3 from founders.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we like to keep everything under wraps as far as like bigger picture. But our core team. So I'll even go into the core team. Why believe in us and community would be number one. Our community is so loyal, so strong, so passionate about the project itself, and we haven't even again launched yet. But the team we have working on this and the amount of man hours and smarts that go into this project are insane. So again, you have myself with supporting with marketing and project managing as well, just overviewing the entire team. And again, now again I'm handpicking who I wanted to be on this team. And again, I told myself I would never start a project ever again, but had this incredible idea for the district, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I can't not do this. And so the first person I reached out to was a contact I actually made with OnlyForce, who's Keli. And Keli is the co-founder with me, and he was former president at. He's also a serial entrepreneur, someone I think would be incredible for this show too. But he started a lot of companies in the past, and he was the former president of Paradigm Sports, who is like Conor McGregor's
yeah.
managing team, Manny Pacquiao's managing team, and he launched his Conor McGregor's whiskey, which sold for billions of dollars. He was the head on that too,
Wow.
and like genius. And just like as far as business wise, extremely extremely smart, and
Yeah.
just an incredible human too. Great family man.
Yeah.
Just somebody you could really kind of lean on. And he's been like the backbone to this project. And then I'm like, all right, let's think community. Then I went to Lumi, who first thing I noticed about her too is all of her posts, if you look on her page, all positive, all
Yeah.
extremely not, so she has her own little cult following of people that like kind of follow her as well. I'm like, all right, she gets incredible engagement, like 50 to 100 comments on some of her posts and like just normal posts, but all what drew me to her was all her posts are like, hey, just want to let you know I love you today. Hey,
Hmm.
don't forget to take a break. Hey, like it were all such positive messages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want her to be in lead in my community. And then that brought us to Topher and Chris, who are community mods. And they've been a part of several other projects as well. Um, uh, like a kid called Beast, they were part of like help with modding. Uh, uh, what's it called? OD Labs, incredible team at OD Labs too, and they were part of the mod team there. So then we have them, and then we have Glass Eye, who worked with Google and helped with our Discord as well. It's just like it goes on and on and on. And then we have Jeff, who is literally a man of many talents. He helps with a lot of the creative direction that we have going on with our project too. And again, upmost was Evie. Evie was the main precipice who was our artist, and that gave me the idea of I need to create something with his art. And
Yeah.
the talk about persistence. The way I got Evie on board, I sent him a message on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, absolutely love your work. I'm obsessed with it. I have this great idea. I want you to be the lead artist on it." No response. Follow back up 2 days later, no response. Left comments on his Instagram, no response. Found him on Twitter, left comments on several of his original posts on Twitter, no response. Sent him a DM on Twitter, no response. Finally, I'm like, how am I going to get in contact with this man? I bought his highest package on Patreon. So it was like, I don't know, like $100 something. I don't know what it was. Just so I had the capability of messaging him on Patreon.
Hmm.
Send him a message on Patreon. My message was, hey man, I'm sorry if I'm being annoying at this point. I messaged you on Instagram, on Twitter, left comments, Instagram, Twitter. I love your work. Please just have a meeting with me and let me talk about what we have. And he goes, hey, I have been seeing it. Like he's like laughing. He's like, LOL, laughing to myself. Um, I'll hop on a meeting with you because you've been going above and beyond. He's like, I want you to know I don't speak English, so that's part of the reason why. And I despise NFTs. And I was like, damn. All right. So he speaks just fluent Italian, doesn't speak English, and I'm like, all right, this is gonna be fun. So I hired a translator to hop on the call with us.
That's
He
amazing.
also he also brought along a translator too by Zayden, who's now actually part of our team, which I love. And so hops on this call and I go over this whole thing. I haven't paid him $100 to take the phone call with me, just so I'm like, hey, please. And he's like, hey, we did some background info on you, background research on you. We realize you started Only Force. You're actually the real deal, and we trust you because he got screwed over on a previous project. His one and only interaction with NFTs, he joined a project, he did art for him, and then they completely just ghosted him when it came time to payment. And
Uh,
yeah, the project didn't go crazy viral or anything, but the core founding team just completely ignored him.
yeah.
And so he's like very sketched out about it. And getting him on board, again, I had the same feeling with I'm Complex about his art that I had with the art with Evie.
Yeah.
And it's just different. It's something that we can all relate to. And the story about the district again is we see all these animal PFP projects. We see all these like mystical figures. We see
Yep.
all these like just not something that we can truly relate to on a one-on-one level as humans. And as far as marketing, my problem I want to solve was no one's buying PFPs at this time too, obviously because of the market sentiment, but everyone for the most part has their digital identity, whether it be their Uniforce, their Bored Ape, their CryptoPunk, their whatever community, the Plague, whatever community they're a part of, that's who people know who they are as like their PFP, and like that's Mikey, that's Dario, that's whoever, and you can tell who they are because of their PFP.
Yeah.
So my problem is trying to figure out what would be the only way people would change their PFP uh, to something else, to a different digital identity. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what if it looks exactly like them? And I'm like, Evie does incredible work with creating realistic looking figures that we can look like. And that's what we took at. And we're like, let's run with this now. So we and again, marketing too, little tidbit too, is like we're doing all different, obviously all different skin tone colors. We're not gonna call it skin. We're calling them Pantone numbers. As far as
Yeah.
like, again, just thinking like, how can we
Yeah.
make sure we check, make sure we're not like
Yeah.
crossing any
Yeah.
lines what it may look like. And uh, we have, so this project can relate to anyone. We literally just had a gentleman, I forgot his name, but he left a comment after one of our figures. Who was had a darker skin tone. He's like, this is a project, and quote was like, this is a project I can get behind because I feel like I can finally have a PFP that looks like me. And the
Yeah.
character had like a afro, all this stuff, and he's like, when I heard that, I'm like, that's what the fuck I'm going for. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what I want, is like
Yeah.
people, anyone in the space can relate to this, because again, for those that don't know the districts, the lore behind it is it makes up the Web3 space. It is everyone in the Web3 worlds. It is the 7 different districts. We have the District 1 is the artists, District 2, the founders, District 3, the collectors of artwork. District 4, you have devs, people that are building the back end. District 5, oh, I might have switched 4 and 5. Uh, we have also in District 6 we have degens, and then we just have basically this perfect
You don't
combination.
have to name them all in
Yeah, I won't go
the
to District 7. Sorry, we're keeping District 7 quiet for now.
Okay. Okay.
Just a little marketing fun. But we have all these different districts that make up
The
who
Web3
the
as a
Web3
whole.
space. Yes, and I'm like, again, marketing wise, genius, because some of these POP projects, you can't really relate to them, right? Let's say
Mm-mm.
World of Women.
Mm-mm.
Love the project, but it's all women. You can't, if a guy's like, hey, I don't feel like this personal connection to this because XYZ, or this animal, I don't really relate to this panda because I'm not a panda. This project, and what makes us stand out too is, and it's a lot more work for Evie, we have completely different male setup, completely different female setup. So the jaw structure is different, the neck is different, the shoulder's different. Every single trait is not it's different. It's, so even if it's like, let's say we have a baseball cap for a male, baseball cap for a girl, uh they're different. It little differences that make it more male related, more female related. So it's literally double the amount of work for Evie, because he has to create the same exact trait for males, same exact trait for females. There's also different traits that you won't see in each outing, and it's all kind of put into one. And what I will say finally is, we have this collection of the 111, which is, again, we can go deep into that too in a minute, but no, we haven't released what the 111 artwork looks like yet. The 111
Right.
artwork is completely different. All the artwork people are seeing now is going to be for the larger collection that we have following the 111. And
Right.
I can go to the 111 now if you want, or if you want to touch on those first. But
No,
the
let's go into the 111 and then we'll go
mhm,
to the larger collection.
that sounds beautiful. So the lore behind our story in the district in the 111 is, we're like, again, any good project has a good story, has a
Yeah.
good basis, and something you can follow along with, and that can continue to build. And the lore of our story is, what if we could build a decentralized future? What if we could build that perfect Web3 world? And
Yeah.
our thought process is, you need about, we said 100, but about 111, make it a nice, beautiful number, dedicated individuals in all of those districts. So
Yes.
all those districts we covered, we have a handful of those people that make up the 111. And right now in the lore too, it's like after these people get to a certain age, they pass the torch to the next 111. So now, as a team, we are hand selecting 111 individuals that make up the makeup and the material that would create these 7 districts. And it has been a beautiful experience. And so
Yeah.
far, we have a application process. And the reason, I'll go over why we have that in a second, we have close to 1,000 people now that have applied to be a part of the 111, which is incredible. Way more than I initially
Yeah,
thought.
that's amazing.
It really is, and it's beautiful with marketing too. But we have all these people kind of fighting for this one spot. And what we're doing is, we're not just going after the people that have 200,000 followers, that
Yeah.
have these last massive followings, we are making it. We are thinking of everyone that supported the Web3 space before the district. So founders that have helped out before, or artists that were crushing it well before the district, and degens that are grinding in spaces for the last 2-3 years. We look
Yeah.
at them. We look at hardcore community members that are championing the district as well. So we're having a nice, perfect balance of incredible community members, but also we want to give light and show love to those that have paved the way to get us to where we are today too.
Right.
So we as a team have been hand selecting these individuals, and one way to help again has been um, the application process, because we understand people have families, people have lives, and they can't spend 24 hours grinding in our Discord or 24 hours responding to every one of our tweets, commenting on every one of our tweets, and retweeting everything and coming to all of our spaces. We understand people have families. You can't do that. So the 111 application process is a way that they can still put their name in the light and say, okay, now we can see who they are as a human. Now we can kind of watch them and kind of see how they flow through the Web3 space. And the 111, I think we're up to about number 60 now. So we've been through or 63, 64, something like that, or 65, I don't know. But we've been through a good chunk of number. We're closing in about the first 50 that have been announced already, and I am so happy with the first 50 so far. And right now, I think we have about 6 more that we already have named in the like in our checkbox as far as like that are going to get announced. But there's still about 60 more that is completely open that
Yeah.
anyone can be a part of. And what's great about the 111 is not only are you getting this Bitcoin ordinal for free, which is our parent collection that we're giving to you as a thank you for being a part of our community and championing the Web3 space as a whole, you get not one, not two, not three, but 4 allow-list allocations for the larger mint, which will happen about a month and a half after the 111.
Right.
And the reason we did that, we were going to do 6 and do like, hey, you got to give 1 for each district, but we realized like that might be giving away too many spots. So we're doing
Yeah.
4. So like, hey, we're gonna encourage them to like find someone in one different district that you think deserves to be a part of the larger collection. And
Right.
they also get VIP at events that we have moving forward. We have we're gonna have a group chat of just the 111. I got this idea from G Money when he did his Admit One team, and I was a part of
Yeah.
that community for a little bit as well. Is now you have this 111 insanely talented, insanely driven, insanely just smart individuals. Now you have a thinking tank of all 111 you that can meet together and discuss ideas, discuss the district, discuss how you can make each other better and
I
make the
love it.
Web3 space better. And yeah, and we're building something. I'm not gonna announce it yet, specific to that 111 as well. That is going to be incredible. That really is next level. That will, I'm telling you now, is going to make everyone want to be a part of the 111, whether it be on the secondary. But I don't see, there's a lot of perks we're doing as well that I'm going to see a lot of people not going to want to sell their 111. And
Right. Right. Right.
so
And,
it's
and
exciting.
that's the point, right? Like, if you're curating a 111, you would be pretty hard pressed that most of them would even sell. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
obviously, there will be the non-founder group that might be hurting for money, and
Of course, of
there might
course.
be a family member that gets sick, and now you're 111. But how beautiful is that, too, right?
Absolutely.
You're working towards to try to change the space, but yet at the same time, you can. Pons says this all the time. My PFP is a Pons because I believe in the man and what he's doing, and you
Hmm.
know I
Great community.
uh, and
Great team.
he has given money to people from his collection for things like that. And 111 can be another beautiful thing like that too. I can't wait for you to link up with Tyler from DSK as well, because it's a very similar concept. But I love that. So the 111, so there's still 60 spots
Hmm. Hmm.
within the different categories,
Hmm.
whether it be, let's get the categories. You said dev,
Yep. So
founder,
artists,
artist.
collectors. Oh, and then the finance district, so like meme coin traders.
Gotcha.
And so that was the one I left out. And
Okay.
again, it's just a nice and degens, a nice blend and melody of everyone. Because to be honest, we do need all of those people. We need all of
Yeah.
them to push the space forward. Because again, you look at people like why finance district, why meme coin traders, why crypto
Right.
traders. Well, all that money they're making, a lot of them are putting it back into the community and buying NFTs again. And
For
it's like
sure.
they're recycling, and it's like we all need every little piece of the district is needed to be a part
Yeah.
of the district, and
Uh,
including District 7, which we don't know, but they are a pivotal piece in the Web3 space, and it's again all working together harmoniously creates a beautiful district.
I love it. So totally makes sense. Now take me to the larger collection, and I love your simple explanation too, because again, exactly what I said. It's brand 3.0, it's community. That is what
Mhm.
is ultimately going to make the difference between the companies that make it and break it. Like I said, there will be plenty of dev and tech companies that utilize the blockchains to make a bajillion dollars. But the ethos of what I think Web3 and Brand 3 can be, the people that are gonna make it is effectively utilize the community, and I
Mhm.
love there's actually, there's a great book called, Tribal Leadership, and it talks about how we're tribal humans and we travel in groups. I forget the other book, but they basically make the point that, and now this is for more, like, functioning communities, right, that are trying to hunt and gather and live and supply each other, and it's about around 50 where it starts falling apart, right? You get a little bit
Mhm.
bigger than that, then resources become an issue, ego, power, all of that toxic things that we see now, it's hard to control. So your concept of a 111 as like this core group absolutely makes sense. And I think to your point, Oni is a prime example of that, right? You just can't you cannot maintain 7,000 people, right? So it's a
Mhm.
beautiful idea. So then why I'm assuming the next collection is larger. So why the larger collection and what is the reasoning behind that?
Absolutely. So the larger collection and the reasoning behind it too is again another good question is we want to over like eventually we want everyone to kind of be decentralized. We want everyone in the world to enjoy what we have experienced in the Web3 space and the NFT space. So
Yeah.
again, these again a part of our lore, the 111, they go and they start building the city. Now it's time for residents to come in and live in the city itself. And so we're expanding the collection to all of us. And again, I think
Mm,
what's great about this collection is I think almost all of us fall under way more than just one category or one
yeah,
district. So
yeah,
I know me, I'm an artist, I'm a collector, I'm a founder, I'm a
yeah,
degen, I'm not a dev. So
yeah.
there's one I don't have my passport to get in there, but
Right, right, right.
it's we also want to expand this collection to those that want to be part of the community because again, we have way more than 111. I'd say like we have about we just broke 4,000 followers, which is cool, but I think of that 4,000, I'd say roughly about 2,000 of them core community like that would like that are
Pretty cool.
really like see him popping in Discord all the time, popping on Twitter all the time, like really strong. And another two that are like, hey, I'm interested in this. Let's see where this goes. And I think what we've done really incredible with this project, and one thing I learned from OniForce is we're not doing guerrilla marketing where it's like uh or like sorry like influencer marketing where it's like in your face celebrity like we're gonna sprinkle it here and there just to again get some energy some life,
Yeah,
but our main focus is building again community one at a time. And so the larger collection, uh the way we looked at it too is why would someone PFPs are dead, right? NFTs are dead. Why would someone want to buy an NFT? And if it's just a PFP, I think now NFT projects need a product, something that is
100%.
yes,
It
making
has
them
to be a
stand out.
business, man. It has to be
Yeah,
a product or a business. It has to have sustainable revenue, and
absolutely.
NFTs are not this was anyway, we even said this in 2021.
Mhm.
You were probably thinking this as well too, but, like, an NFT is not a business. It's a technology to create a really interesting business, right?
Absolutely. And that's so we took the team out to about half our team out to Hawaii, and we had a powwow session. We're
Yeah.
there for about a week, and we're like, all right, we have this incredible art, we have this incredible lore, we have this incredible project. what's our product? You look at Pudgies, they're known for their plushies. You look at Oniforce, they're known for their comic books. You look at all these projects, Bored Apes, they're kind of like they're, I think, mobile gaming now. Like all
Yeah.
these uh big projects have their product that they're known for. So now we have, again, not announcing anything, but like
Right.
just because we want to hear, but we have two products that we have been building in the back end for the last like 2 months now. That it's, I know for a fact it's going to change the game. And it's, again, you look at just in anything in life of like solve problems. What are some of the problems that are going on in the
100%.
Web3 space? How can I solve it? How can I make someone's life even just 1% easier? That can trickle and it build up. And I will say, just a little bit of alphas for other products. Two products. One is a lot of fun, and one will really touch into the degen districts and all, because all of us at that point are degens, and that's more of the fun aspect of our
Yeah.
products. And then entirely different product we're looking to put out is more use case scenario of onboarding a lot of people into the Web3 space,
Nice.
and then also at the same time giving a platform to everyone in the Web3 space. So there's we're building two solid products in the background, as well as, again, focus is always like on community. And again, the PFP artwork is so incredible, but that is just to get you into the community and show, hey, you have this beautiful artwork that may or may not look like you love it, and now let's really build something beautiful.
Right. Well, all I can say is, can we work together in the future to create a streamlined video editing tool? Because for my situation, I hate video editing, and it is
Mhm.
so time consuming.
There's so
It's
many good AI stuff now to help you with
I
that.
know, but even still, it's just like it's
It's
janky.
not,
It's not quite there yet.
yeah.
It's video editing is always going to be a pain in my ass. I mean, I've been in video editing my entire life, well, in video pretty much my entire life. Uh, and it's just something I've never liked. But
Yeah.
the necessary evil for doing the video stuff. No, I love and I think that's great too. Again, do not share anything. The number
Yeah,
one
yeah.
mistake that most founders have made on the show, and you know this too, is they've shared shit and they've been like, "Oh shit." You know who the biggest were the biggest case study that if you're not been around in NFTs, uh and I even, it became he was an amazing guy. You remember Antonin? Remember that Project Ant they were in the
Yes.
precipice of,
Yeah.
like, the phygital world, right? They had these
Yes.
badass looking alien things, and they were gonna ship
Mhm.
everybody, like a fucking 3 foot, like, I guess if you minted a legendary or a rare, you got, like, literally a 3-foot statue of this thing, and they were, like, in the phygital real world movement back in 2021, right? But way
Mhm.
before people were really talking about it. And their entire narrative from day one was, after you mint, within a month, this thing is showing up at your front door. A year and a half later, guess what had not shipped yet? These
Wow.
freaking things, right? They don't
Yeah.
exist anymore, but like really good guys, right? And they
Mhm.
just, again, it was kind of an Oni situation. Really good creative guys, probably didn't have the best business acumen, especially when it came to, like, the guy that made it was a world-renowned sculptor, had tons of notoriety, but he didn't think about how the hell am I gonna make 8,000 of these sons of bitches and then ship them around the world, right? Not only the cost, but the logistics behind it. Like, they needed a logistics czar to pull this shit off. They didn't have
Mhm.
that, right? But you were just so amped up of, like, the possibility of Web3, but they are the number one use case of do not overpromise because
Yeah.
you will get skewered, and sure enough, they did. Uh,
Mhm.
but I will ask, so we talked about the expansion. Next, we'll do this because we are almost at 3 hours, bro. I knew this was gonna be good, but I didn't know it was gonna be 3 hours, Ken.
I'm
Uh,
here for it. I love it.
it's incredible. Take us the next 6 to 12 months, anything you can talk about, or if not, then I will ask my last question. We can do a little closing thoughts, and we can wrap it up for the night, man.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about the Web3 space is we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow.
Hmm.
So I think right now we have one, especially until this collection gets released. It's just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. And one thing you can look forward to though is we're doing our own Twitter space on Monday, but anyone that's here listening to this now gets a sneak peek on it. Is we're going to be ramping up our uh, social presence. So we post a lot on Twitter. We'll say that. And right now we have our Tara Summers who hosts spaces 3 times a week. She'll be
Hmm.
hosting spaces 4 times a week now and a day in Discord. So it's 5 days a week. And I will be running Twitter spaces now again from the district account. We're not doing any right now in district account, 5 days a week now. So Monday through Friday, we're gonna be doing a late night show. And it's just gonna be, it's not gonna be about the district, it's just gonna be open. It's gonna be talking about,
Yeah.
again, Web3 and chill, just talk about NFTs and hosted by the district. We're gonna be doing now, we have community, we have anime night in districts, and that's
Nice.
kind of like every now and then game night. Now we're doing 5 days a week in Discord, events 5 days a week in Discord too. And
Nice.
so it is all at once. It's a switch. Now, full momentum forward. We have everything's about to change. It's gonna be beautiful. And then I will say this too, like the next 5 names that we have already chosen for the districts 111, some huge hitters in there, which I'm like really stoked for. And we have a lot of people in our DMs now too. I will say this too really quick. Sorry to go off tangent, but
Yeah.
we are I love the community. I love everyone that's reaching out, but I don't care who you are. Everyone is on an even playing field. I don't
Yeah.
care if you are the fucking president of the United States and you say, hey, let me get a 111. I'm gonna say, hey, go fill out an application or support the community or like join Discord, be a part of the community and like be experience it and like be with us. And then I would absolutely love for you to consider you to be part of the 111.
Hmm.
So again, people that are saying I have no chance, I have no chance, I have no chance. We go through every single application, every single one, and we look at, again, I live on Twitter all day. I look at everyone, I see everyone that is commenting, retweeting, and not just like a lot of our things, we have quests that people have to do, like, oh, leave comments on these 10 tweets, and people are just leaving like literally just a letter A, letter B,
Yeah.
letter C. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what is that doing for? Like, so I look at every single comment, I respond to every meaningful comment. So we have eyes everywhere. We have eyes in Discord
Yeah.
with the mod team. We have eyes on Twitter. We have eyes on applications. We see everything, and we just want real, authentic humans that want to champion the name. So everyone has a chance to get one of the Willy Wonka golden tickets of the 111, and it's just about showing up and being a good human. And
Yeah.
so as far as like the next few months, it's step by step. First, we want to knock out this 111. Then we want to knock out the main collection, which will also lead into some really good marketing. I'm excited for, and then after that, we hopefully by that time are ready to launch at least one of our products.
Nice. And I heard a lot of community as well. No, that's a great it's a great little preview. So we're
Mhm.
gonna do this. I have one last question at the end of the show. It's a softball. Don't let the knees shiver.
Mhm.
It'll be okay. I'll say my closing comments and we will call it a night. If you can just hang, I'll end the stream. You just hang on a couple minutes so we can chat, not in front of currently 650 people.
Oh my
Uh
gosh! Hey everyone, that's
how's
insane.
it
I didn't
going?
realize this many people have been in here. That's
Yeah,
wild.
no, there's lots of people there's lots of people
Don't forget to like,
watching.
subscribe.
Yeah,
Everyone
dude.
follow
Like,
Mikey GNFT.
subscribe, Mikey
Yeah.
G, Midlife Crisis, JR in the district. Please
Mhm,
do that. It would be nice that you actually did that because
mhm.
I'm sick of getting bots following me. It's okay. It's like I just stopped looking at my Twitter following because I'd look at it one week and I'd be like, oh man, I gained like 350 followers. And then I'm literally down negative 100
Yeah,
like the next week because it's just all bullshit bots.
yeah, we see
So
that
I don't
too.
even care. I don't even care about it anymore. Whatever. I'm just gonna keep on making my company, doing my content, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm meeting beautiful people like yourself.
love it. Here for it.
Okay, so my last question. I literally hopped into your Twitter space today. You're doing Twitter space. You've been a part of 1,000 Twitter spaces. You now have been through the midlife crisis experience. please tell me how you rate, and be honest, it can be bad feedback, but how would you rate feedback for me on how tonight went compared to the other things you've experienced in Web3?
All right. And I'm not just trying to toot your horn, but this, at least for me, has been the best one-on-one experience I've ever had as far as anything: podcast, Twitter Space, YouTube show. It's been easily number one. So those that don't know, I'm very introverted. Actually, a lot of people that know me, I'm very introverted. I rarely go out. And when I do, I'll peek my head out every now and then. And again, I had anxiety with going on Twitter Spaces, going on shows. I stopped doing them completely for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Just would never show face. This has been an incredible experience. I think
Thanks,
it's
man.
one, you've done, again, I think professionalism. You've done your research. We had the pre-talk before as well, and I can see why everyone enjoys being on the show because, again, it's been 3 hours and
It has.
there has not been one pause in 3 hours of conversation, and I think you've really led uh, a beautiful string throughout the start to the beginning, and I think you'd be a great teacher because in lesson planning we have this imaginary string that leads us from the start of the lesson to the end of the lesson,
Yeah.
and make sure those transitions are really smooth so the students don't even know they're learning. They don't even know that the start of the class happened. At the end of the class they're like, oh man, class is over.
Yeah.
Same feeling here. It's like,
Thanks,
the
man.
podcast is over. And so 3 hours to seem like 10 minutes. And just
Yeah.
want to say again, this has been an incredible experience. And anyone listening, I don't want to overwhelm you, but I think get on this podcast, get your voice out there. Mikey GNFT, send him some Twitter DMs because you're gonna want to be on this. It's been a really beautiful experience, and just want to say once more, like, really appreciate you. It's almost been, to be honest, too therapeutic in sense too to kind of bring up some of those past. And again, really quick shout out to the Oni community. And just want to say I love them and appreciate them. And one last time, Only community, I'm sorry that I let them down, and I'm
Yeah,
glad that
man.
Star Lordy has and Team Artsnish has been able to bring them up because, again, I really, that was my baby, and I'm
Yeah.
glad to see it thriving now. So all the love to the Oni community, and now again, kind of like a phoenix rebirth.
Right.
I've said it a few times, but for me, this comeback is personal,
Yeah.
and this I want to make sure all the mistakes I made, all the faults I did with Oni Force, and just in life in general, I make up tenfold. And I have again had an incredible community at Uniforce that at sometimes I kind of took advantage of. And this new community, I won't make that same mistake. And the district community has been epic, has been insane. I literally, today, this is my, I think my fourth Twitter space I've been on today. No, not Twitter space.
Wow.
This is like, wait, yeah. And that the community, every single one they were in, they were part of. They're like, we're
Yeah.
here, we're showing up, we're here, we're showing up, we're here, we're showing up, and unwavering support. And I am making sure this time around I will give 110% value back to them so they
Mhm.
know that, hey, we value you, we appreciate you, and more importantly, we love you. And
Yeah.
just want to say once more, thank you for having me on this show. It's been incredible, and just blessed to be here, and thank you.
Thanks, dude, man. And wow, those are good words. I appreciate it. I think one coming from somebody like you, who I've known of for many years, to come full circle to have you on my show and give those kind words. Amazing. Thank you so much. And um, I've always said this. I know I have a product market fit with, like, the founders love the show, people love the content. It's just now a matter of time and continuing to help to get that out. But what really makes me feel warm and fuzzy is what you said is that's all I'm trying to do, man. And you felt it, and I have done now my job. So
The
thank
genuine
you.
human
That makes,
connection.
yeah, man, genuine human connection. That's because that's what the world needs more of, man. It's I'm firmly convinced of this. Uh, my closing comments to you. One, phenomenal conversation. I had um, I had a number one before. It was between um, imaginary ones, David and Clement,
Mm,
incredible human beings. I
100%.
had them on before they got like super hyped up. They had gone down. I'm gonna say it live online, man. You just took the rap. Hands
Yeah,
down,
let's go.
the best podcast that I've
Love that.
had yet. And they just keep on getting better. And I say this because of this. You said it simply, and it's the number one thing that you said that just struck me immediately was some people just need to hear I love you. And I just think that is so powerful and so important. So when you said that, that actually gave me chills. I didn't say anything. And I got chills multiple times throughout the conversation just because of the way you carry yourself, how you were humble, and how I could tell again, like wouldn't even have known that you had anxiety about ever speaking because you just come off as genuine. And I think that's probably and what in my experience of going through all of this is um, one of the number one way that you can combat being anxious, and it's kind of counterintuitive, is just be yourself, right? And if you can be yourself and not worry about the rest, it kind of all takes care of itself. And you were that, and I could genuinely feel you. The other thing that I loved, and you rarely hear this from leaders like yourself that have been through a lot, is you were open about the owning stuff, especially in the Web3 space. There are so many founders that are toxic, will not talk about their failures, but you were just forthcoming. You shared the lowest moment in your life, like the vulnerability that you shown throughout this process, being humble, learning from your mistakes. Uh, I'm a firm believer we'll always be learning. The day you think you've stopped learning,
Yes.
that's the day you start dying. But you've learned an incredible amount, and I know you have a lot more to live. And I truly do say this in my mind, this is the beginning of a friendship. And I can't wait to grow and build similar brands side by side because I really do think we can make an impact in this space.
Absolutely. And again, 1,000% will be continuing this friendship. And you mentioned one thing about learning too. And Michelangelo said it best, not the Ninja Turtle, but the artist. And he said, I just, and this is at near the end of his life, he's quoted by saying, I just started learning my craft. And one of the best, to me, the best
Yeah.
artists to ever work this world. And he said, I've just started to learn my craft. Imagine what I could do in 2 lifetimes. And
Uh,
so even the master of paint himself is like, I'm just learning how to paint and I
yeah.
still have so much more to learn. So I
Right.
think, yeah, we
Right.
are forever learning, and again, always fail forward.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
is big.
Yeah. And then to finally cap it off, is just Tiffany, you're a genuine good human, and the Web3 space needs more of it. So thank you for being you. Honestly,
Appreciate
you
you.
ready
Right
for
back.
this? I'm really gonna close it out. I love you,
Yes, sir.
dude. I
I
love you.
love I love you too. Let's go. Let's
Yes.
go.
We just
Let's
said it live online after a
let's
3-hour
go.
conversation. And with that being said, I don't think
What a
we
great
can
answer.
cap that.
No, no, no.
Friday, we have my man, Mr. Zero. I called him Mr. O in my Monday video. I don't know why I did that. I actually screwed up JR's name as well, but you live and you learn. He's coming on. He has this really cool platform called Awardable. I actually use them for my badges on my Twitter space on Fridays. You can easily mint an NFT out of an image, and you also can use the badges for people to collect. You can create permissions based on if they come to a Twitter space or not. Really smart guy, completely opposite of what JR and I are, which is an insane tech dev guy. So it'll be a fascinating conversation. And with all of that being said, wrapped up 3 hours of a beautiful human to human conversation. JR, thank you again so much. We love you all. Mike G and JR are out.